Chapter 439. Confused, so you had no time to look at it. Using the light emitted by the scroll, he began to search for the exit. Time passed slowly, so you did not know how long he had been in this space, until he found a cave above his head. A wisp of faintly discernible aura from the outside world slowly seeped into the cave from the entrance. This was most likely the exit, so you wore a joyful expression. He was about to enter when he heard the faint sounds of a conversation. Deep underground, on a deserted island, Qi Ming and the elder in the painting sat opposite each other. Between them was the 3 zhang tall body of the Ghost King. I will use a spell to send you into the Ghost King's body. The vital energy I have injected into your body will ensure that you can withstand the ghost energy for a Jostix time. Within that time, you must find the mysterious heavenly map. If you cannot, there is no need for you to return. The elder in the painting tapped Qi Ming's forehead, injecting a shred of spirit energy. Qi Ming was shocked. Yes, Master, if I can help you recover your cultivation level, I am willing to die. Humph. Back then, you were willing to be my servant because you were imprisoned by me and wanted to enter Jiuzhou through me, right? Don't worry, if you succeed, I can naturally bring you into Jiuzhou. The elder in the painting let out a light grunt. All right, I will begin the spell. With a low grunt, the ground the three of them were standing on released waves of light. From the Ghost King's chest, a steaming ghost chi emerged, forming a palm-sized vortex. Qi Ming's body flickered, then was swallowed by the vortex. Whoosh! When Qi Ming entered, he discovered that the ghost chi was turbulent and had an absolute suppression on spiritual chi. A shred of vital energy within his body protected him from being affected. Is this the body of the Ghost King? With such ghost energy, the Black Snow Devil King will definitely die. If I can find a mysterious heavenly map, I can search for his corpse. It is rumored that he has a few treasures on him that can shake the continent, especially that high-grade divine artifact. However, at this moment, a light and indifferent voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Thank you for your concern, Shopkeeper Qi. I am afraid that I will have to disappoint you and not die here. Qi Ming's body stiffened, his expression turning pale. He cried out involuntarily, Black Snow Devil King. You are not dead? Impossible. Shua. As the ghost fog moved, a passageway was formed and a person's figure appeared. It was Su Yu. Qi Ming's expression flickered. When he saw the glowing scroll in Su Yu's hand, his pupils shrank. Young Master Black Snow, what are you talking about? I'm relieved that you're not dead. Shopkeeper Qi's expression changed from one of shock to one of warmth. If you're really dead, I would feel uneasy instead. Su Yu wore a faint smile. Is that so? Qi Ming said embarrassedly. Haha, since young Master Black Snow is fine, follow me and leave this place. Miss Xin is still waiting for you outside. When he finished speaking, he naturally walked forward and grabbed Su Yu's shoulder. It seemed like he wanted to take him away, but just as he was about to get close, his genial face suddenly changed, turning into a hideous expression. His palm also turned into a claw and grabbed at his wrist. Shopkeeper Qi, what is the meaning of this? Su Yu retreated and dodged. Qi Ming laughed coldly. Since you're not dead, of course I'll send you on your way. Really? At that moment, Qi Ming realized that the faint smile on Su Yu's face had turned into a grave and stern expression. Qi Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad premonition, but thinking of the difference in their abilities, as well as the suppression of spirit energy in this place, he suppressed his unease and grabbed Su Yu's wrist. His 5 fingers exerted force, wanting to seize Su Yu's pulse and control him. But when he really exerted force, he realized with shock that it was as if he was grabbing a piece of steel. No matter how much force he exerted, he could not move Su Yu at all. You, what's wrong with your body? What happened to your body? Qi Ming sucked in a breath of cold air. He loosened his grip as if he had been electrocuted. But in the darkness, Su Yu's hand quickly caught up to Qi Ming. He grabbed Qi Ming's arm. His grave and stern face was filled with murderous intent. It looks like you've squeezed enough. When he finished speaking, his 5 fingers exerted force. With a cracking sound, Qi Ming's bones cracked. Qi Ming let out a pathetic cry, trying his best to break free from Su Yu and escape. But Su Yu's hands were like giant pincers, holding him firmly. You want to kill me? Qi Ming was shocked. Su Yu calmly said, "What do you think?" Qi Ming's heart was in his throat, his eyes filled with fear. "Wait, my master is outside. Even if you kill me, you might not be able to leave alive. If you swear to let me go, I can plead on behalf of my master to let you go. In any case, I'm still of use to you. There is no benefit in killing me. But if you don't kill me, you can still live." Su Yu nodded. "That makes sense." Qi Ming heaved a sigh of relief. All of a sudden, Su Yu made his move and broke the man's neck. This person was cunning. It was unwise to team up with him. Furthermore, since he was a servant, what right did he have to plead on behalf of his master? After confirming Qi Ming's death, Su Yu casually searched his body, but found nothing. As the shopkeeper of the Golden Light Pavilion, it is surprising that he is so poor. Su Yu curled his lips. With a flick of his finger, a small fireball burned Qi Ming's body to ashes. Just as Su Yu turned to leave, he suddenly realized that there was a fine strand of hair within the ashes. It was completely undamaged. Su Yu was certain that it was not a strand of hair. It was a treasure that could withstand high temperatures. He extended his hand and held the strand of hair in his palm. Turning his gaze, Su Yu used a thread of weak soul energy to wrap around the strand of hair. At once, the soul energy was sucked into an unfamiliar space. It was extremely narrow, only the size of a bag. It was not even half as big as the Cosmos Mirror. But the narrow space was filled with all sorts of treasures. 9 complete immortal-level techniques. 5 to 6 divine artifacts. There were all sorts of runes, including the Broken God rune that Su Yu had seen before, as well as 2 fiery, red, lightning runes. Other than that, there were 7 to 8 bottles of extraordinary elixirs. Such a vast collection was 5 to 6 times richer than Su Yu's. Oh, Xian Wuhan's cicada cloak. Su Yu suddenly realized that there was an item that belonged to Xian Wuhan among the divine artifacts. His expression changed slightly and became a little grave. Xian Wuhan is a very mysterious woman. Her strength is probably not inferior to a real human king. However, even she died. I'm afraid that the person who killed her is not Qi Ming, but the master he spoke of. Thinking about it carefully, so you could roughly guess the abilities of the master. A half-god, if he was a fairy realm fighter, why would he bother to deal with the Ghost King? Only a half-god could kill Xian Wuhan. His heart sank. Even though Su Yu had the experience of fighting a half-god, that was after borrowing Shang Ji's power. It would be extremely difficult for him to defeat his opponent in a one-on-one fight. Thinking about it, Su Yu's mind spun. He calculated the outcome of his fight with the master, his expression flickering. Chapter 440. The old man in the painting sat cross-legged, and a golden Buddhist bead floated in front of him. The Buddhist bead was engraved with complicated Sanskrit characters, and it emitted a strong Buddhist aura. Anyone who was swept by the Buddhist light would feel calm, and it would make people worship it. It was as if their souls were being baptized by Buddha. The spiritual pressure emitted by the Buddhist bead was even more shocking, far surpassing the level of a divine weapon. It could even compete with the Cosmos Thundersword. Compared to it, the ghost-suppressing golden ring was inferior. Under the golden light of the Buddhist bead, the imprisoned Ghost King's body twisted in pain, and it emitted a strong, ghostly aura. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. Were there any signs of unconsciousness in his eyes? His eyes were filled with ferociousness. The old man in the painting laughed coldly, not pretending to be unconscious anymore. The ghost-suppressing golden ring can naturally make a normal Ghost King fall into a coma and never wake up again. But you're not a normal Ghost King. How could I have overlooked this? This person already knew that after the Ghost King was imprisoned, he pretended to be unconscious and waited for the other party to relax, and then take the opportunity to attack. The Ghost King let out a painful roar. Who are you? Forget about the ghost-suppressing golden ring. You even have a Buddhist relic. Even a true Buddhist disciple can't possibly have 2 inferior spiritual weapons at the same time. The old man in the painting said calmly, "You don't have to worry about that." Then he pointed at the Buddhist bead, and with a swoosh, the Buddhist bead drilled into the Ghost King's forehead. "Ah, you want to use the Buddhist relic to control me? Don't even think about it." The Ghost King roared, and a ghost chi whirlpool appeared between his eyebrows to block the Buddhist bead's invasion. The old man in the painting smiled mockingly. "You overestimate yourself." His 10 fingers rotated, and the Buddhist relic turned into a golden ball. It broke through the resistance of the whirlpool and entered the whirlpool. Only then did the old man in the painting stop forming hand seals. He heaved a sigh of relief. "This Buddhist relic will exist in your inner world. As long as I think about it, the Buddhist power in the relic will explode, and you will instantly turn into ashes. So, you should know what to do next." The Ghost King's face was filled with deep hatred, but more than that, fear. After struggling for a while, he unwillingly lowered his head. Green Ghost pays respect to master. The old man in the painting smiled. "Very good, as expected of a ghost that has cultivated for many years. Your life is more important than your dignity. There's no need to say more about this." Ghost King's heart was filled with hatred, but there was no longer any disrespect on his face. "Chingay doesn't dare." "Humph. I know what you are thinking in your heart. Don't worry. When I return to Jojo, I will naturally let you live. Now, just do your best to help me enter the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion and take the opportunity to return to Jojo." Ghost King rolled his eyes, respectfully replied, "As master commands." "All right, now wait for my other servant to extract the heavenly secret map from your body." The old man in the painting said indifferently. After thinking for a while, he said, "Remove the ghost-suppressing golden ring from your body first. I'm just a spirit body. I need protection." "Many thanks, master." The Ghost King was ecstatic as he respectfully stood behind the old man. The old man in the painting nodded his head and raised his hand. The ghost-suppressing golden ring on the Ghost King's body gradually loosened, turning back into a golden ring the size of a palm and floating in the air. Just as the old man in the painting raised his hand and was about to retrieve the golden ring, a ghost energy whirlpool suddenly appeared on the Ghost King's abdomen. The old man in the painting was slightly surprised. It seems to be faster than I expected. You found the mysterious heavenly secret map so quickly?" However, the eyes of the old man in the painting suddenly froze. "That's not right." From within the whirlpool, a huge flame rushed out and headed straight for the old man, who was just inches away. At first, the old man was stunned. Then, his expression turned cold. "Humph, I have underestimated you. You are still alive after being in the Ghost King's body for 3 days." After his speech, a formless ripple filled the air, ignoring the flame. It passed through the air and shot toward the person in the whirlpool who was about to escape. A horrible shriek could be heard. Then, a crimson figure could be seen stumbling out of the whirlpool. Then, without saying a word, it broke through the ground and escaped quickly. The old man in the painting let out a soft gasp of surprise. "You did not die from my soul attack." Even a strong martial artist like Xian Wuhan's soul had been destroyed in an instant. Without saying a word, the old man slammed his palms on the ground. Then his whole body shot up into the air. With a shocking speed, he charged towards the ground and chased after the person who was escaping. However, just as the old man left, another whirlpool appeared on the Ghost King's abdomen. A red-haired young man, who was dressed in a moon-white long robe, ran out wildly. The moment he came out, he grabbed the ghost-suppressing golden ring, which was still floating in the air and had not been retrieved in time. Then, he turned into a fragmentary shadow and escaped into the sky. However, just as he was about to break through the ground, a wind shadow flashed above his head. A translucent old man was standing in the air with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked down coldly and wore a disdainful smile. "You want to use such a small trick to distract me?" Su Yu's clone had not been able to deceive the old man. "If you had hidden in the world within the Ghost King's abdomen, I would not have been able to do anything to you. However, since you have come out, you are seeking your own death." The old man in the painting did not say a word. His eyes shot out a formless ripple of radiation. It was this ripple that had destroyed Xian Wuhan's clone in an instant. Sui was caught off guard and could not avoid the soul attack. However, what caused the expression of the old man in the painting to change was that his soul attack was like a clay ox entering the sea. He did not feel like he had harmed the other party's soul in the slightest. "Who are you?" The old man's expression turned serious. At the same time, he secretly ordered the Ghost King to attack. The Ghost King's dark red eyes glowed fiercely. Its ghostly claws slammed down abruptly. A frightening power, second only to that of the fairy realm, swept toward Suyu. Suyu's body shivered. Without hesitation, he used the short-distance wings and flew into the sky. The old man in the painting had a sinister expression. He pressed down with both hands. A soul attack that was far stronger than the one just now transformed into a formless giant palm and slammed towards Suyu's soul. However, what caused the old man in the painting to be shocked was that Suyu's figure merely flickered before he charged toward him as if nothing had happened. The old man's soul attack had no effect on Suyu. The old man was shocked, instinctively dodging. Suyu took the opportunity to escape into the sky. In the blink of an eye, his figure disappeared among the green clouds. "Qing Gui, chase after him immediately," the old man in the painting ordered. Qing Gui's eyes glowed. A black cloud appeared beneath his feet, carrying him away with a terrifying speed. The old man in the painting had a glint in his eyes, but he did not give chase. His eyes glowed with shock and uncertainty. Could that youth be a puppet? My soul attack actually didn't have the slightest effect. It looks like Qi Ming has most likely been killed. That mysterious heavenly map is most likely in the hands of this person. And the ghost-suppressing golden ring. How preposterous! This old man's Buddha's supreme treasure was actually stolen away in passing. The old man's expression was filled with murderous intent. I have prepared it for decades, but it was all stolen by that brat. If not for the fact that I only have soul attacks, I would have personally killed that brat. Above the sea, a pair of green wings cut through the horizon. Behind it, a black cloud cut through the sky in pursuit. A man and a ghost chased each other crazily above the vast sea. Chapter 441. Suyu's expression turned serious as he flew in the direction of the Heavenly Law Alliance's battleship. He had thought that he would be facing a mysterious half-god, but the Ghost King had been enslaved. Having seen the terror of the Ghost King, Suyu's heart trembled. Die! The dark cloud beneath the Ghost King's feet was shockingly fast. It did not take long for it to catch up to Suyu. It opened its mouth and spat out 2 stone pillars. Suyu's heart sank. Most of his purple thunder needed to suppress the greenish-white thunder in his body. He could only use a small portion of it. The purple thunder he could use in the sacrificial altar had been used up. If he used the purple thunder again, the suppressed greenish-white thunder would explode. The outcome would be worse than death. Thinking for a moment, Suyu tossed out a red talisman he had obtained from the space storage device in Qi Ming's hair. A bolt of red thunder shot toward the Ghost King. The Ghost King's body glowed with ghost energy, turning into a giant shield that blocked the thunder. But Suyu took the opportunity to increase the distance between them. The Ghost King let out a cold grunt, determined Suyu's direction, and chased relentlessly. The two of them chased for half a day, traversing tens of thousands of miles of ocean. After escaping for some time, the spirit energy in Suyu's body gradually depleted. His heart sank. He still had a few frost moon dew pills that Phoenix Master Chio had given him, which could replenish his spirit energy in time. But the Ghost King was relentless in his pursuit, and the pills would run out sooner or later. Escaping like this was not a solution. Suyu's eyes flashed. While he still had some spirit energy, he retracted his wings and turned around, preparing for battle. The abilities of the Ghost King were not something an Azura could compare to. Suyu guessed that even the 3 half-gods of the Heavenly Law Alliance might not be able to defeat this ghost in a one-on-one fight. Suyu might have to use the only vital energy crystal in his body to activate the Cosmos Thunder Sword. With a thought, the Cosmos Mirror opened a crack. Just as it opened, a bolt of shocking sword energy shot into the sky, creating a 1,000-foot mark on the surface of the sea in front of him. The Ghost King, who had chased after Suyu with a ferocious smile, suddenly froze. Not only did it stop its pursuit, it retreated 1,000 feet, looking at Suyu with shock. A lightning-based, semi-manufactured spiritual artifact? Who are you? A mere junior from the Void Zone actually possesses a semi-manufactured spirit weapon. The Ghost King was unusually serious. Suyu's heart moved, and he suppressed the sword energy of the Cosmos Thunder Sword. His face turned cold. Is there a need for me to tell you? The Ghost King's eyes flickered, and he started to ponder. After a while, he retracted his killing intent and the ghostly aura around him. He asked with a deep meaning, "Do you need the undead herb of the Netherworld?" Suyu was slightly surprised. "What are you trying to say?" The Ghost King stood with his arms folded, his eyes gleaming. "Of course it is to make a deal with you. I'll give you the undead herb of the Netherworld, and you'll help me kill that old man." The Ghost King's eyes flashed. Suyu stroked his chin, slightly tempted. This person is a soul body, and he has many strange tricks up his sleeves. I might have to exhaust all of my trump cards to kill him. Once that's the case, I'm afraid you'll be able to take advantage of the situation and get rid of me as well. Right? Ghost King chuckled. You don't necessarily need to make a move now. With your abilities that are not weaker than a human king, I believe that the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion will definitely participate. There are many dangers there, and there will be many opportunities to kill him. As long as you agree to help me kill him, the undead herb of the Netherworld will be yours. Suyu was moved. After weighing the pros and cons, he nodded his head. All right, I agree. However, I need 2 undead herb of the Netherworld. Laughing heartily, the Ghost King opened his mouth and spat out 2 strands of black hair. The undead herb of the Netherworld was the hair on the Ghost King's head. That's easy. Now that I'm being controlled by that old man, all my treasures will belong to him sooner or later. So what's the harm in giving them to you? The Ghost King did not mind. At the same time, he spat out a yellowish scroll. It was the scroll of the Heart's Oath. With the scroll of the Heart's Oath, the Ghost King was not afraid that Suyu would dare to break his promise. After completing the oath, Suyu obtained 2 stalks of undead herb of the Netherworld, and the 2 of them came to an agreement. The Ghost King was satisfied and laughed. Good, mysterious, heavenly divine pavilion. I look forward to working with you. After saying this, with a flash of light, he tore off one of his arms, pretending to be heavily injured. Only then could he fool the old man. I'll give you this arm of the Ghost King as well. Your body seems to have some of my bloodline. The blood essence of the Ghost King in this arm can purify your bloodline and strengthen the abilities of the evil ghost bloodline. This is something that the descendants of the Ghost Clan can only dream of. The Ghost King laughed. Suyu was surprised. He grabbed the arm with one hand and looked at the blood flowing in his arm. His body felt hot, and a feeling of excitement welled up in his heart. You will only be able to kill that old man if your abilities increase. The Ghost King's body was filled with ghost energy, turning into a cloud and floating away. Suyu looked around. After making sure that no one had noticed him, he kept his arm, turned around, and left. Tens of thousands of miles away, the Ghost King, who was within the black cloud, had a cunning look in his eyes. Hee, is my blood that useful? If you really use it to purify your bloodline, it would be equivalent to planting a seal on you. With just a thought, I could control your life and death. Following which, Suyu went to the vicinity of the Heavenly Law Alliance as promised. Phoenix Master Chio had been waiting for him for a long time. I haven't seen you in half a month, and the spirit energy seems to have become much purer. How is it? Have you found the whereabouts of the undead herb of the Netherworld? Suyu sighed. I only managed to find some clues. I'm afraid the chances of me cultivating the evil, destroying divine eyes are slim. It was not convenient for him to tell anyone about the Ghost King. Phoenix Master Chio did not doubt him. The undead herb of the Netherworld was a precious item. If Suyu found it, she would be suspicious. Don't be discouraged. Phoenix Master Chio consoled him, then solemnly took out a jade box. I have not let you down. The Dragon Abyss Elixir has been successfully made. Suyu was overjoyed. The Dragon Abyss Elixir had been successfully made. Thank you, Phoenix Master Chiao, Suyu said gratefully. After conversing for some time, he left in a flash, heading toward the Dragon Abyss of the 9 underworlds to keep his appointment. He had just left when a beautiful woman in luxurious clothes flew over from the horizon. Her entire body was cold, like an icy beauty. Phoenix Master Chiao's eyes narrowed, but she soon revealed a courteous expression and quietly waited. Miss Wuxin, the Alliance Master has been waiting for a long time. Why did he return half a month later? Long Wuxin was Long Juexin's daughter, and she was known as the peerless genius who was most likely to break through to the fairy realm. Long Wuxin flew down and glanced at Phoenix Master Chiao. She did not have much respect for her. Yes, I was delayed by something. Phoenix Master Chiao, you are in charge of the intelligence department. Do you know the origins of the Black Snow Devil King? Phoenix Master Chiao was secretly shocked. What had happened to Long Wuxin when she was traveling in the outside world? Once he returned, he immediately inquired about the Black Snow Devil King. This person's appearance is very mysterious. We can't find out his exact details yet, but he just left. What? He's still alive? Long Wuxin's cold eyes shrank, and she was bewildered in her heart. The other party had obviously been swallowed by the Ghost King, so why was he still alive? Phoenix Master Chiao was secretly astonished. It seemed like something had happened between Long Wuxin and the Black Snow Devil King. Long Wuxin's eyes flickered, and she said in a grave voice, Phoenix Master Chiao, please do your best to gather information about the Black Snow Devil King. Chapter 442. In the battleship, Xia Jingyu rested for half a month, replenishing her spiritual energy and stamina. After bidding farewell to Phoenix Master Chiao, she hesitated for a moment before heading to Qin Xiener's room. Sister Yu. Seeing that it was Lord Yu, Qin Xiener threw herself into Lord Yu's embrace with a face full of surprise, smiling coquettishly. After spending half a month together, the relationship between the two quickly warmed up. Xia Jingyu felt helpless as she looked at the petite Qin Xiener in her arms. I'm here to bid farewell to you. Xia Jingyu rubbed her head affectionately and sighed. Qin Xiener's eyes dimmed, and she felt a little lonely. However, it was quickly covered up by a cheerful smile. We will meet again very soon. Master has asked me to enter the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. I will be able to see Sister Yu there. Hearing this, Xia Jingyu smiled and said, Train well. When we meet in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, we might draw our swords against each other. At that time, I will not be merciful. Sister Yu has never seen me in action. You might not be able to defeat me. Qin Xiener smiled mysteriously. Oh, right. Qin Xiener suddenly thought of something. She clumsily took out a black book from her pocket. It was the Starry Sky Heavenly Book. It recorded everything that Xia Jingyu had seen and heard after she came to the continent. The seal on the book had not been opened yet, which meant that Qin Xiener had not opened it before. Sister Yu, please pass this book to Brother Suyu personally. Qin Xiener handed the book over. Her eyes were clear and filled with smiles. Seeing that the book had not been stolen, Xia Jingyu looked at Qin Xiener with a gentler gaze. She was silent for some time, but did not retract the book. Instead, she let out a relieved laugh. All that I can see is inside. I do not know if I will survive this trip to the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. If you survive, please continue to help me pass it to Suyu. Qin Xiener wrinkled her nose. Sister Yu, you are too good to Brother Suyu. Xia Jingyu smiled, but there was a trace of bitterness in her heart. So what if he was good? They were destined not to be together in this life. However, when Xia Jingyu lowered her head and looked at Qin Xiener's innocent face, she couldn't help but tease her. Xiener, won't you have any thoughts about how I treat Brother Suyu? Aren't you afraid that I'll snatch Brother Suyu away? Qin Xiener froze, tilting her head seriously. After thinking for a while, she asked curiously, why does Sister Yu want to snatch Suyu away? Sister, do you also like Brother Suyu? Xia Jingyu's face became slightly flushed, and she forced a smile. What if, and I'm just saying, what if I really like you? Hearing this, Qin Xian'er slightly pursed her lips, while her small hands held the starry sky heavenly book tightly. She lowered her head, as if she was struggling and hesitating about something. After a long while, she raised her head and squeezed out a bright smile. You can like Brother Suyu together with me. I won't mind, really. Xia Jingyu revealed a loving smile and squatted down to pat her head. How could she not see Qin Xian'er's struggle and hesitation? Which woman in the world would be willing to share a man? Qin Xian'er probably couldn't bear to reject him for the sake of the Starry Sky Almanac. Therefore, he would rather suffer grievances and agree against his will. Don't worry, I also have someone I like, so I won't fight with you over Brother Suyu. Xia Jingyu chuckled. Qin Xian'er blushed, lowered her head, and said shyly, I really don't mind. But her voice became softer and softer, showing her guilt. Xia Jingyu smiled, but did not say anything. After thinking for a while, she took out a dozen or so complete dragon abyss fruits from her bosom. Previously, she had taken some during the battle with the Shura, so she had 20 more. Qin Xian'er seemed to be missing 1 or 2 more dragon abyss fruits, so the extra ones were useless to her. I'll leave them for you. Before entering the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, try your best to break through to Heaven Master. Only then will you have the ability to protect yourself. Qin Xian'er was overjoyed. Thank you, Sister Yu. After getting to know each other, Qin Xian'er did not stand on ceremony, accepting all of the fruits in one go. Other than one, which she placed in her left pocket, she placed the rest in her right pocket. Xia Jingyu was a little surprised. Xian'er, I have a question that I've wanted to ask since we were in the Dragon Abyss. Why did you split the Dragon Abyss fruits you obtained into 2 pockets? Qin Xian'er hesitated for a moment, then mysteriously closed the doors and windows, pouring out all of the Dragon Abyss fruits from the 2 pockets. The left pocket was mostly filled with broken Dragon Abyss fruits, while the right pocket was filled with 10 complete Dragon Abyss fruits. Xia Jingyu understood, smiling as she praised, very smart. The Dragon Abyss elixirs made from broken Dragon Abyss fruits would most likely lose their effectiveness. Making them separately would ensure the most complete Dragon Abyss elixirs. Unexpectedly, Qin Xian'er sat in front of the table, guarding the table full of Dragon Abyss fruits as if she was guarding a treasure. She shook her head vigorously. No, the broken Dragon Abyss fruits are for me. The complete Dragon Abyss fruits are for Brother Suyu. Brother Suyu is cultivating alone. Without good resources, it must be very difficult. Hence, I want to leave the best for Brother Suyu. That's right. I still have many elixirs that can increase one's cultivation level for my master. I will give them to Brother Suyu when the time comes. Qin Xian'er said, her small face brimming with happiness. At that moment, Xia Jingyu looked at that smile. Her eyes were piercing, and her soul was deeply shaken. One of the 2 pockets had been prepared for Suyu. She had brought Suyu with her all the time. Xia Jingyu smiled weakly, muttering to herself, I really don't have a chance. She had imagined that Qin Xian'er's feelings for Suyu would fade with time. That way, she would still have a chance. But seeing this scene, she felt a sense of loss. I will help you both be happy. Goodbye, Xian'er. Xia Jingyu tried her best to smile, waving goodbye. However, when he turned his head back, he secretly added, Goodbye, Suyu. Leaving the warship, Xia Jingyu felt a sense of loneliness. It was their promise to look at the prosperity of the Jinlong continent on Suyu's behalf. Now that she had handed over the Starry Sky heavenly book and met Qin Xian'er again, Xia Jingyu suddenly thought that perhaps she and Suyu were no longer bound by anything. What was left was to forget each other. Above the sea, Suyu traveled for 3 consecutive days. He was about to reach the Dragon Abyss of the 9 underworlds. But his figure flickered, but he did not immediately return to the Dragon Abyss of the 9 underworlds. Instead, he landed on an island. There are still 5 to 6 days until the appointed time. Before that, I'll deal with the goods first. Apart from the rare undead herb of the Netherworld, he had also obtained a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact, the ghost-suppressing golden ring. Suyu had witnessed the power of that item vividly. Even such a ferocious ghost king had been firmly imprisoned by the ghost-suppressing golden ring. To Suyu, who had been targeted by the heavenly ghost Shungu, it was a timely help. It was a pity that the item had already been refined by the old man in the painting. Suyu's 10,000 soldier spiritual liquid had been completely depleted, so he was unable to refine it. If he forcefully used it, the power of this item would undoubtedly be greatly reduced, and it would be difficult for it to display its power when used to intimidate the Ghost King. Other than that, Suyu had also obtained a mysterious heavenly map. The old man in the painting had prepared for dozens of years to obtain this item, so it must be extremely important. However, it was a pity that he did not know its use at the moment, so he could only keep it for the time being. Lastly, there was a vital energy crystal embedded at the abdomen of the black armor. This indicated that this broken armor did not belong to the Jinlong continent. Moreover, this object was abnormally hard. Although it was damaged to a certain extent, the location of the heart. Naked, although it was exposed, it was still a top-grade armor. However, he did not know how strong its defense was. He still needed to test it in actual combat. After keeping all the items properly, Suyu took out the Dragon Abyss Elixir. Looking at the completely black Dragon Abyss Elixir, Suyu's eyes were filled with anticipation. He had been stuck at Immortal Realm Level 4 peak for a very long time. It was time for a new breakthrough. He took a deep breath, adjusted his state to its peak, then opened his mouth and swallowed the elixir. At once, a bone-piercing cold energy invaded his dantian. Within his dantian, the liquefied spirit energy was being compressed by the cold energy, gathering continuously. His dantian was experiencing an intense pain, causing Suyu to clench his teeth, letting out a cracking sound. Large beads of sweat rolled down Suyu's face, which was gradually turning pale. At that moment, the liquefied spirit energy in his body, after being compressed to the extreme, started to change. Within the liquefied spirit energy, shreds of weak crystals could be seen gradually being compressed. They were spirit energy crystals. As time passed, the number of spirit energy crystals increased. At that moment, a layer of dark clouds had gathered in the sky. Bolts of lightning could be faintly seen, roaring continuously, as if preparing for something. Suyu sensed it, raising his head to look at the sky, his expression changing. Of all times, it has to come at this moment. At that moment, Suyu was fully focused on his breakthrough. How could he have the excess spirit energy to deal with the lightning that had appeared out of nowhere? Tens of thousands of miles away, a sloppy old man was sitting on a giant rock, drunkenly pouring wine into his mouth. Suddenly, his expression turned serious, looking at the horizon in shock. Whoosh! With the sound of the air being torn apart, two youthful figures appeared. The two of them wore simple clothing, their collars sewn with the word Sheen. Elder Geo, is someone going through the fairy realm? The youth in the lead had a cultivation level of half-god. His age was not more than 25 years old. Such talent was terrifying. The sloppy old man looked for a moment, then shook his head. No, it is a breakthrough to Heaven Master. The youth in the lead was shocked. Elder, Heaven Masters can attract a heavenly tribulation? That is too unbelievable. The sloppy old man laughed. This is the first time I've seen it. It must be someone who deserves to be struck by lightning. Don't worry about it. Just wait for that lad to come. The two youths bowed in acknowledgement, standing at the side respectfully, not making a sound. Suyu had reached a crucial moment. At that moment, the liquefied spirit energy in his body had turned into shreds of weak crystals, gradually condensing under the pressure of the medicinal effects. But at that moment, the lightning that had been brewing for a long time finally came roaring down. With a loud rumble, a Tinjong-thick lightning dragon roared down, as if it wanted to destroy the entire island. Suyu, who was deep within, groaned. With a thought, the broken armor covered his body. Chapter 443. The entire reef island was shaken to the point that it was trembling violently. The coral reef that Suyu was on was sinking into the sea. In a breath's time, the entire island was destroyed. The lightning that splashed into the sea instantly killed all the living creatures within a 100-mile radius. In an instant, the surface of the sea was littered with corpses. As for Suyu, who had fallen into the sea, his body was covered in lightning, as if it wanted to blast his body into nothingness. At the critical moment, the vital energy crystal of the black armor released a bolt of vital energy, activating the armor and releasing a layer of black protective barrier. Although the lightning was strong, it could not get close to Suyu, dispersing within the protective barrier. However, there was a gap at the chest area of the armor. The lightning circled a few times, and less than 10% of the lightning struck Suyu through the crack. Whoa! Suyu spat out a mouthful of blood, his body a mess of flesh and blood. His divine sense had almost been scattered. The crystal that had been forming in his dantian shook violently, showing signs of being scattered. Suyu was extremely furious. The breakthrough of a mere heaven master had attracted a heavenly disaster. But what caused his expression to change was that the dark clouds in the sky had no intention of dispersing. Instead, 2 bolts of lightning struck down. His expression turned serious. One bolt of lightning had nearly interrupted his breakthrough. If it were 2 bolts of lightning, not only would his cultivation level be interrupted, he might not even be able to survive. Clenching his teeth, Suyu opened the storage artifact on the strand of hair. There were 4 middle-grade divine artifacts within, and Suyu painfully threw them all out. Rumble, crack, 2 of the divine artifacts exploded on the spot. But because of that, the lightning was neutralized. But before Suyu could heave a sigh of relief, the dark clouds in the sky gathered again, and 3 bolts of lightning struck down. A total of 3 bolts. This was practically forcing Suyu to his death. Bang! The remaining 2 middle-grade divine artifacts were destroyed. The remaining bolt of lightning struck down without any resistance. At the critical moment, Suyu endured the pain and took out a spiritual ruler. It was Xian Wuhan's powerful divine artifact that could summon beast souls. The 2 collided, and a beast soul flew out from the spiritual ruler, swallowing the lightning. The 2 destroyed each other. The beast soul was destroyed by the lightning, and the spiritual ruler split into 2. The spirit ruler was destroyed. Seizing the opportunity, Suyu frantically forced the fusion of the crystals. However, the dark clouds that were clearly about to dissipate actually condensed again. Moreover, a bolt of yellow lightning that far surpassed the previous one appeared. Its aura was vast, and its destructive power was exceptionally shocking. The fusion of the 6 lightning bolts earlier was not even comparable to the yellow lightning bolt in front of him. Suyu, who had noticed this, could not help but be filled with murderous intent. Within the lightning, he sensed a familiar aura, heavenly might. It was the heavens that prevented him from becoming a heaven master. It seemed like Suyu's pure divine decree and heavenly eyes had angered the ruler of the unseen world. Hence, it had tried its best to obstruct his breakthrough. Suyu clenched his teeth, and the fire origin and ice origin in his body gushed out at the same time. Bang! Amidst the deafening rumble, a 500-foot-thick thunder dragon roared as it charged toward Suyu, who was at the bottom of the sea. The origin energy of ice and fire turned into 2 pillars of light that soared into the sky, heading straight for Lei Long. The ear needles collided, but there was no sound. Half of the thunder dragon was destroyed, but the 2 origin energies were also swallowed by the heavenly might thunder dragon. The will of the heavens that wanted to stop Suyu from breaking through was extremely strong. As if sensing danger, the vital energy crystal on the armor quickly released a large amount of vital energy. In an instant, more than 30% of its energy was used. A 5-zhang thick light barrier enshrouded Suyu entirely. Thump! The thunder dragon roared as it smashed down. At that moment, Suyu felt as if he had suffered a heavy blow. His body shot toward the depths of the sea like a cannonball. There was a metallic taste in his throat, and his internal organs were in turmoil. Many of the bones in his body were broken. The crystal within his dantian, which was about to condense successfully, was violently shaken, nearly collapsing. Suyu's expression changed. Without another word, he quickly protected his dantian and gathered the collapsing crystal back together. But at that moment, a hole appeared in the chest area of the protective barrier. The lightning, which had nowhere to escape, crazily drilled into the barrier. Thump, thump, but a crackling sound could be heard from within the armor. Su Yu, who was already badly mutilated, was struck by the lightning until his entire body festered. His flesh split open, and his bones could be seen. These were only external injuries. The overbearing lightning of the heavenly tribulation did not stop there. It entered Su Yu's body, rampaging and destroying everything in its path. His body was filled with continuous banging sounds, his flesh exploding piece by piece. In the blink of an eye, Su Yu was on the brink of life and death. His consciousness was a little fuzzy, and his soul was shaken violently. At that moment, the divine nine-dragon cauldron suddenly shook. 10 drops of red liquid rippled out from within the cauldron. The white dragon, which had been crystallized a third, had been crystallized by 2/3 in an instant. The remaining red liquid entered Su Yu's bloodline. A shocking scene appeared. The overbearing lightning immediately became docile, like a mouse that had seen a cat. Everywhere it passed, all the violent lightning of the heavenly tribulation became gentle. It was as if the red liquid was like a king. Very quickly, the red liquid flowed through Su Yu's entire body. The remaining lightning in his body became docile. At the same time, everywhere the red liquid passed, Su Yu's nearly destroyed body recovered at a shocking speed. In a short moment, his skin was as good as new, as if he had never been injured. Finally, the remaining red liquid seemed to have sensed something and flowed towards Su Yu's dantian. Under its nourishment, cracks appeared. The crystal, which was about to collapse, quickly formed. A moment later, it formed into a crystal the size of a thumb, quietly revolving within Su Yu's dantian. Crystal was the symbol of a heaven master. A comfortable feeling spread throughout Su Yu's body. Feeling the powerful ripples of spirit energy within his dantian, Su Yu's body was filled with unimaginable power. He believed that if he met a human king, he would be able to fight him head-on, even without relying on his physical body. Looking around at the various ruins that had fallen into the sea with him, Su Yu's eyes were filled with hatred. If not for the fact that he had various divine artifacts, the armor he had obtained, and the help of the divine nine-dragon cauldron at the last moment, he would have been obliterated. Hatred burned in his chest. Su Yu shot into the sky, cutting through the surface of the sea. At that moment, the dissipating dark clouds started to gather again. A bolt of green lightning, even more terrifying than the yellow lightning, was brewing. Scram! Su Yu's eyes turned cold, opening his mouth to suck in a mouthful of spirit energy. The word army, which was 10,000 zhang in size, suddenly exploded. The destructive sound wave charged into the dark clouds with radiation. The dark clouds that were still condensing were swept away by the huge sound wave that swept away all the clouds. Even the lightning that had yet to be formed was destroyed with a whimper. On the faraway Dragon Abyss Island of the 9 Underworlds, 2 members of the Qin family looked at the scene in shock. The heavenly disaster has been dispersed. But at that moment, the dark clouds started to gather again. Su Yu's gaze turned cold, taking out the silver bow. He had already refined the bow to 80% and could use its full power. Pulling the bow back, a 3-foot-long arrow of spirit energy appeared. As Su Yu released his fingers, it was like a green lightning bolt piercing through the dark clouds. The tribulation clouds were dispersed once again. But the heavenly disaster did not seem to rest until it killed Su Yu. After dispersing, it started to gather again. But just as it gathered, an arrow of spirit energy pierced through it. In the darkness, there seemed to be a furious roar coming from the soul level. The dark clouds were gathering at an even faster speed. Without thinking, Su Yu shot out an arrow, dispersing the dark clouds. His face was filled with cold, murderous intent. I will destroy one tribulation cloud when it appears. I will destroy both if 2 appear. I want to see what you can do to me. Just like that, the dark clouds continued to gather and were dispersed by Su Yu. The tribulation clouds were extremely aggrieved. Before they could form any more lightning, they were dispersed. This went on for 9 rounds. Finally, The lightning could no longer gather. But from the 9 heavens, a cold, murderous intent pierced through Suyu. The murderous intent was so strong it seemed to come from the whole world, filled with the power of heaven and earth. Suyu was not afraid. He looked toward the direction of the murderous intent. He let out a cold laugh. What are you looking at? I don't care who you are. One day, I will step into the 9 heavens and destroy all of you. After experiencing the heavenly disaster with the heavenly eyes, Suyu had seen through the so-called heavenly disaster. There was no heavens in the world. There were only strong fighters of the human race who enslaved all living beings. They called themselves heavens, suppressing the breakthroughs of all living beings. They treated the people of the Jinlong continent like livestock. If they disobeyed, they would use lightning to suppress them. Why did Suyu need to fear such a powerful world? As if in response to Suyu's provocation, an even stronger murderous intent descended. Suyu let out a cold laugh. Other than glaring at me, what else can you do? A bunch of trash. If those people could kill Suyu, they would have done so long ago. Why would they wait until now? Ignoring the cold, murderous intent, Suyu turned and charged in another direction, looking for a quiet place to stabilize his cultivation level. He only flew toward the island in the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds 5 or 6 days after he had recovered. Whoosh! Before Suyu had even descended into the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds, a figure of light appeared. It was Gang Dalei. This person had a forthright personality and had helped Suyu quite a bit in the past. Haha. As expected, you have successfully broken through to Heaven Master. Gang Dalei's clone laughed, stepping forward to pat Suyu's shoulder. Suyu smiled modestly. This is all thanks to Brother Dalei's help. That was how I was able to find enough Dragon Abyss fruits. Gang Dalei laughed. You don't have to be humble. The aura of your breakthrough a few days ago was extraordinary as well. It really opened my eyes. Suyu was stunned. A few days ago? I broke through half a month ago. Did someone break through here a few days ago? Suyu had noticed that Gang Dalei's carefree attitude had changed. His eyes were filled with shrewdness. It was obvious that Gang Dalei was not as boorish as he looked. Chapter 444. Gang Dalei shrugged his shoulders and said, All right, the old man is waiting for you. Led by him, Suyu landed on a giant rock. Apart from the sloppy old man, there were 2 youths in ancient clothes with the word Qin embroidered on their collars. Lad, you are finally here. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go. The sloppy old man did not bother with pleasantries. He only looked at Suyu profoundly, revealing a mysterious smile as he led the group away. When Suyu came to his senses, he was already on a white cloud, flying at a shocking speed. His speed was so fast that it left people speechless. It was as if he had truly traveled 10,000 miles in an instant. What shocked Suyu even more was that when he was sucked into the cloud, he did not react at all. The terror of the fairy realm was not something that immortal realm cultivators could surpass. He is the Black Snow Devil King that we have been waiting for half a month? Humph, his abilities are average, but he is very arrogant. After settling down, one of the 2 youths with the word Qin embroidered on their collars looked at Suyu with a critical gaze, muttering softly. The cloud was only a few zhang wide, and even the smallest of whispers could be heard. It was obvious that the other party was speaking to him. Suyu turned his head and glanced at him. He had an ordinary appearance, but there was a natural tumor on his forehead that looked like a greenhorn. After glancing at him, Suyu retracted his gaze as if nothing had happened. He had no intention of responding. What kind of gaze is that? The greenhorned youth was displeased. Suyu's gaze was extremely arrogant to him. Suyu did not reply. He even closed his eyes. Seeing this, the young man was secretly annoyed. I say, don't you think too highly of yourself? The sloppy old man was sleeping soundly on the cloud. On the other side, Gang Dalei, whose entire body was wrapped in a ball of light, seemed to have entered a meditative state. He did not try to stop Suyu. Only the 25-year-old youth beside the greenhorned youth creased his brows and scolded, Shut up. The greenhorned youth shuddered. Although he looked at Suyu furiously, he did not dare speak again. This must be the famous Black Snow Devil King. It has been a long time since we last met. I am Qin Zhuoyang, and this is my brother, Qin Yushan. If he has offended you in any way, please forgive him. Qin Zhuoyang was quite handsome, and his whole body was filled with a masculine aura. He was also quite humble. Even though he was a demigod, he was still able to apologize to others. It could be seen that he still had some magnanimity. So you opened his eyes and cupped his fist slightly. Mr. Qin, you flatter me. Compared to the Qin family of the 8 great ancient clans, a mere wandering martial artist like me is nothing. Qin Yushan was shocked, while Qin Zhuoyang revealed an interested expression. I am indeed from the Qin clan of the 8 great ancient clans. Brother Black Snow, you have a good eye. Suyu smiled indifferently. A half-god genius with the surname Qin. Apart from the 8 great ancient clans, I really can't think of any other forces that could nurture such an outstanding person. In fact, Suyu was a little surprised. He was actually traveling with the 8 great ancient clans. Qin Zhuoyang did not take it to heart and smiled. In the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, I hope that we can help each other. It should be Mr. Qin who will guide me. Suyu replied modestly, then closed his eyes. Qin Zhuoyang smiled, but did not speak. Brother Zhuoyang, why did you stop me just now? This person is arrogant. Why do you need to be nice to him? Qin Yushan sent a message to Suyu secretly, feeling indignant. Qin Zhuoyang calmly replied, You cannot judge a book by its cover. If you look down on others, you will suffer in the end. Since this person was chosen by Elder Geo to carry out that mission with us, he must have something special about him. It is foolish of you to provoke him for no reason. Furthermore, based on my intuition, even though your cultivation level is above his, if you were to fight him, you might not be able to gain much from him. Qin Yushan laughed angrily. Brother Zhuoyang, aren't you overestimating the morale of others and diminishing your own? Even though I'm stupid, I have been trained by the best in my family since I was young. I have fought countless life and death battles in my life. No matter what, I'm not someone that any random cat or dog can compare to. Qin Zhuoyang creased his brows slightly, but did not continue to persuade him. He understood his own clan brother very well. In terms of talent, apart from himself, no one in the entire Qin family could compare to him. Even though he was only a human king, he had the experience of exchanging a few blows with a half-god. Among the human kings of the same generation in the clan, no one was a match for him. Thus, the arrogance in his heart was not tempered and would not be restrained. There was no point in saying anything more. After a few days, the white clouds traversed thousands of miles of mountains and rivers and descended on an extremely steep, desolate mountain in the middle continent. This mountain was abnormally steep, and the mountain body was slanted as if it was about to collapse. Many white clouds surrounded the middle of the mountain. Looking down, one could see a cliff that was tens of thousands of feet high. There were also many strange, giant birds that flew past. Gang Dalei, who was cultivating, seemed to have sensed something and woke up. He grinned and said, We are finally here. Damn it, my butt is numb. The group of people jumped down one after another. He carried the drunken, sloppy, old Taoist down and threw him on the ground. Ouch, you bastard. The sloppy old Taoist was instantly in pain. His drunkenness was completely gone, and he opened his mouth to curse. Gang Dalei snorted angrily and said, Old man, stop talking nonsense. Open the spell and let us in quickly. The sloppy old Taoist glared at Gang Dalei fiercely, rubbing his butt. He formed a seal with one hand and struck the void in front of him. The void, which had clearly been empty, suddenly rippled. Without a sound, a purplish gold door covered in symbols appeared. The door gave off an ancient aura, as if it had been through the ages. The sloppy old Taoist expression turned serious. I can only open this door for 5 breaths' time. The 4 of you must enter within these 5 breaths' time. So he was shocked. Even with the power of the fairy realm, he could only open the door for 5 breaths' time. The sloppy old Taoist put down the wine pot, his expression serious. A shocking amount of vital energy burst forth from his body, turning into a pair of giant hands that pushed open the purplish gold door in front of him. Creak! The purplish gold door opened slightly. A spiritual energy that was 3 times denser than the outside world gushed forth. Going quickly, the door only allowed one person to pass through. The sloppy old Taoist's face turned red. It was obvious that it was extremely strenuous. The expressions of the 4 of them turned cold, and they entered one after another. Finally, the sloppy old Taoist entered as well. Without the vital energy to maintain it, the purplish-gold door closed with a bang, then turned into nothingness. Suyu felt his feet spin, and he staggered as he landed on an ice-cold ground. When they opened their eyes, they found themselves in a rather large bronze plaza. There were statues of different shapes around the plaza. They were all young people, not older than 25 years old. There was even a 14-year-old girl among them. These statues were emitting a terrifying aura. They were at least at the level of half-god. Some of them had even surpassed the human king level, reaching the level of the fairy realm. Unfortunately, the fairy realm expert was the 14-year-old girl. So he was shocked. Looking at the hundreds of statues, he had a vague feeling that he could not understand them. These statues are the strongest martial artists that have appeared in the history of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Every statue represents the strongest martial artist of the current generation of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Suyu stared at the 14-year-old girl in disbelief. May I ask, Elder Gio, which generation's strongest martial artist is this little girl? The sloppy old Taoist looked at the young girl's statue, unable to hide his shock. She is the strongest martial artist of the previous generation. But why have I never heard of such a talented young girl in the Jinlong continent? Suyu could not understand. Similarly, the 3 people who had come along were in disbelief. The young girl in front of them had reached the level of the fairy realm at the age of 14. What kind of frightening talent was that? Who told you that she was from the Jinlong continent? The sloppy old Taoist raised his eyebrows. What? Suyu and the others were shocked. If she was not from the Jinlong continent, could she be from Jiuzhou? That's right. Just as you have guessed, the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion is not exclusive to the Jinlong continent. It is actually the legacy of Jiuzhou. But every 10,000 years, a weak projection will descend upon the Jinlong continent. With luck, we have the chance to enjoy the legacy of Jiuzhou once. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion has descended upon Jiuzhou hundreds of times, but it has only appeared twice in the Jinlong continent. The sloppy old Taoist revealed a secret that no one knew about. As he spoke, the old man's expression turned serious. In the Jinlong continent, due to the restrictions of heaven and earth, no one can make a breakthrough to the fairy realm. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion is your only chance. The King of Darkness and the first realm master that you know of only made a breakthrough in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Apart from them, throughout the ages, the Jinlong continent has never produced another fairy realm. So, you should understand what the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion means to you. Hearing this, the breathing of everyone present quickened. The only chance to make a breakthrough to the fairy realm. So you thought for a moment, then said, Elder, if that's the case, we will meet strong fighters from Jiuzhou in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. I wonder what their abilities are like. Are there any fairy realm cultivators inside? The sloppy old Taoist laughed. Good question. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion has very high requirements for those who enter. First, they cannot be older than 25. Secondly, their cultivation levels must be below the fairy realm. Once they exceed this limit, they will be forcefully transported out. So, you do not have to worry about the strong fighters of the fairy realm inside. As everyone heaved a sigh of relief, the sloppy old Taoist suddenly laughed. However, among the hundreds of statues, if nothing goes wrong, none of the geniuses of the Jinlong continent can defeat one of them. Hearing this, everyone's expressions changed. Qin Yushan's face was filled with dissatisfaction. Qin Jiuyang and Gang Dalei were deep in thought. Suyu stared at the hundreds of statues. Every one of them was the strongest fighter participating in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Their abilities had reached a frightening level, not something an ordinary half-god could compare to. The sloppy old Taoist words were not empty words. At this moment, the space opposite them rippled. 7 figures appeared. They were the 7 Lords of Darkness. Su Yu's pupils turned serious, and he looked at the 2 people who were ranked first and second, Bai Luo and Shuning. Bai Luo wore a green robe, his aura restrained. He looked like an ordinary person. Chapter 445. A pair of long and narrow eyes immediately noticed the presence of the person in front of him, but it only paused for a moment on Qin Jiuyang before looking at the sloppy old man in shock. Interesting. The King of Darkness did not personally take action, but still allowed you to enter this place? Could it be that he had been preparing the heaven offering ceremony to successfully transport you here? Bai Luo's expression was calm. He was neither servile nor overbearing in front of the sloppy old man. Greetings, Elder Geo. The sloppy old man looked at him indifferently, saying meaningfully, not bad. You are only a step away from the fairy realm, similar to Long Wuxin of the Heavenly Law Alliance. Strive to break through in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. That way, the King of Darkness's hundreds of years of seclusion would not have been in vain. Hearing this, Bai Luo's pupils dilated. No one knew if the King of Darkness was dead or alive. Hearing the sloppy old man's words, it seemed like the King of Darkness was still alive. Their gazes flashed, and the 7 Lords of Darkness stood quietly at the side, no longer speaking. Among the 7 of them, Xia Jingyu looked at Su Yu in surprise. Su Yu felt it. Even though her face was covered by water vapor, Su Yu could still feel her kind smile. He smiled back at her. However, the corners of his eyes never left Bai Luo and Shuning. The 2 of them had left Su Yu with a blood feud that he had yet to repay. At that moment, the void rippled. A black-robed old man appeared with a few people. Su Yu was shocked. That black-robed old man was none other than the first Realm Master. He was the ancient powerhouse that had escaped from the underground tomb that day. Now he was just a corpse. Under the control of Long Juexin, he used the power of the fairy realm to open the door, bringing in a line of fighters. Among them were 3 juniors. One was a beautiful lady with an icy aura. She had an extraordinary appearance, but her eyes were emotionless, pushing people away. Her cultivation level was also frightening. She had reached the half-god realm, and she was not an ordinary half-god. Next was a human king, a youth who looked similar to Long Feiyu. He was handsome and had a strong demeanor. Finally was Xiener. She had also broken through to the fairy realm after a few days. At this moment, a pair of big, watery eyes were looking around. After discovering Su Yu and Lord Yu, she waved her hands in surprise and greeted them. Long Juexin noticed Su Yu's presence with just a single glance, and his eyes shone with a sharp light. However, when he noticed the drunken, sloppy old man, his expression changed. He quickly hid the strange look in his eyes and went forward to greet him. Greetings, Elder Geo. Even the Heavenly Law Alliance Master had to bow and scrape in front of the sloppy old man. The sloppy old man waved his hand. You don't have to be so polite. Nurturing Long Wuxin is the right way to go. Long Juexin shuddered as he silently retreated. Boom! At this moment, the space fluctuated again, and a large group of people entered. Taking a closer look, they were the 4 ancient clans. Other than the exterminated Tu clan and Yu clan, the Gui clan, which had yet to arrive, and the Qin clan, which had come with Su Yu, the other 4 clans had all arrived. The 4 great ancient clans came as expected. They only had a few elders, and the rest were the outstanding disciples of the clan. Each clan would only send one. They were all sovereign personage experts, but there were no demigods. 8 ancient clans. The 7 Lords of Darkness let out a cold, murderous aura. The Empire of Darkness had never been on good terms with the 8 great ancient clans. At this moment, the space fluctuated again. A mysterious person in a purple robe, his entire body wrapped tightly, stepped into the space. The sloppy old man squinted his eyes, letting out a hollow laugh. Su Yu had a thought, silently remembering the purple-robed person. The purple-robed person seemed to have sensed something, and he looked in Su Yu's direction. The plaza, which had been empty a moment ago, was now filled with people in the blink of an eye. The atmosphere was harmonious. Even though they had grudges in the past, they did not want to cause trouble in front of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Until 2 days later, with a buzzing sound, the surrounding space tightened. The sloppy old man's golden light flashed, and he looked around. The space node to enter this place has already been closed. It looks like we're the only ones participating in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. So you creased his brows. On the continent, the people of the top forces were all present, but only the Gue clan of the 8 great ancient clans was nowhere to be seen. Could it be that they did not care about such a grand occasion? Buzz, buzz, buzz. The space fluctuated once again. In the middle of the plaza, a few giant stone pillars suddenly appeared. The ground in the middle of the stone pillars was surrounded by 9 dragon-shaped patterns. Let's go up the stone pillars. The sloppy old man waved his hands, sending the 3 of them toward one of the stone pillars. He remained on the ground, smiling as he looked at them. Long Juashin also shouted, "The 3 of you will take a stone pillar as well." Long Wuxin, Long Fighting, and Qin Xiener flew up a stone pillar. Seeing this, the rest of the people seemed to know the rules of this place. Every force would take a stone pillar. The plaza seemed to have some sort of special sensing power, just enough for every force to take a stone pillar. As such, there were a few forces in total. The force that Suyu was in, the force that the 7 Lords of Darkness were in, the force that the Heavenly Law Alliance was in, the force that the 4 great ancient clans were in, and finally, the force that the Purple Robe person was in. There were a total of 5 forces, and those who remained were all geniuses. The elders who accompanied them did not go up. Suddenly, the 9 dragon patterns on the ground surrounded by the 5 stone pillars trembled, and a line of floating words appeared. In the mysterious heavenly battle, every stone pillar has to fight against 4 other stone pillars. According to the intensity of the fight, the space node will be transported to a place with more resources. Note that the more intense the fight, the more talented the participants are, and they will be transported to a place with more resources. The 9 dragon patterns below will react accordingly to your battle situation. You will also be ranked according to your battle records. The top 3 will receive an unrefined, mid-rank divine artifact. The second place will receive 2, and the first place will receive a bottle of heavenly flower liquid in addition to a mid-rank divine artifact. It can erase the imprint of any divine artifact below the level of a spirit artifact. Hearing this, Suyu's pupils dilated. The divine artifact was one thing, but the first place would receive a bottle of heavenly flower liquid. The ghost-suppressing golden ring in Suyu's hands lacked the 10,000 soldier spiritual liquid to erase its mark. If he could obtain this bottle of heavenly flower liquid, looking around, Suyu could not help but shudder. There were as many as 4 demigods here. How could it be easy to get first place? Furthermore, looking at their expressions, it was obvious that they were tempted by the reward for first place. The sloppy old man let out a cold grunt. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion really knows how to give rewards based on the location. In the mysterious heavenly divine battle of Jiuzhou, the top 3 are rewarded with a high-grade divine artifact. The first place can even get a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. They were all attracted by the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, but it was obviously not completely fair. The mysterious heavenly battle begins. Choose your stone pillar battle team. The atmosphere on the 5 stone pillars became tense. They were all secretly observing the abilities of their opponents. "Brother Jiuyang, let me go first." Qin Yushan's eyes flashed, eager to try. Qin Jiuyang said, "Which stone pillar do you wish to choose as your opponent?" Qin Yushan was full of confidence, shooting a glance toward the purple-robed mysterious man. "Fight him." Unexpectedly, Qin Jiuyang did not hesitate. "No, he is very dangerous, and I am not completely confident." Qin Yushan's expression changed slightly. This lone, purple-robed person was actually so ferocious. With a flash of his eyes, Qin Yushan looked toward the Heavenly Law Alliance and laughed coldly. I have long heard of the great name of the Heavenly Law Alliance. I would like to see their abilities. Among the three of them, his gaze flickered for a moment before locking on a Long Fighting, who was in the middle. Qin Zhuoyang nodded slightly. You could give it a try. With a joyous expression, Qin Yushan was full of confidence. He pointed at Long Fighting and said, I am Qin Yushan. I would like to challenge you. Long Fighting did not expect that someone would challenge him. He was slightly stunned, then let out a cold grunt. I am Long Fighting. I will naturally keep you company. Long Wuxin said expressionlessly, with this kind of trash, if I do not defeat him within 10 moves, I will punish him heavily when I return. This lady was exceptionally strict. Long Fighting's heart trembled. Without any disrespect, he flew down from the stone pillars seriously and landed on the ground in the middle of the 5 stone pillars. Qin Yushan let out a cold grunt. With a leap of his legs, he landed vertically. The ground shook violently from the impact, and a few cracks appeared under his feet. Make your move. Qin Yushan took out a 9-segmented whip from his back. It was a middle-grade divine weapon. Moreover, it had been completely refined, and it was emitting a rather strong spiritual pressure. Long Fighting let out a grunt and opened the Cosmos fan in his hands, revealing a landscape painting. Begin. Qin Yushan was methodical. He imbued his spiritual energy into the 9-segmented whip. Instantly, the entire whip emitted a jade-colored brilliance. It looked like a beautiful jade object. The long whip lashed down fiercely. An afterimage that was hard to catch by the naked eye streaked across the sky, bringing with it a series of sharp, exploding sounds. The terrifying power of the attack was close to that of a half-god. Long Fighting, who was opposite him, did not panic. He shook his wrist gently, and a giant mountain flew out of the Cosmos fan. The mountain was lifelike, as if it was a real object. A huge pressure suddenly pressed down. The ground where Qin Yushan was suddenly sank, and his face instantly turned the color of a pig's liver. Such a strange technique was rather difficult to deal with. Qin Yushan, who had been full of confidence earlier, could not help but be filled with anger. He let out a loud grunt, and the 9-segmented whip in his hands lashed out fiercely. The whip that was lashing at Long Fighting suddenly changed direction and lashed back at the giant mountain. With a loud rumble, the huge mountain range was split into countless pieces of rubble. However, without waiting for Qin Yushan to heave a sigh of relief, his opponent fanned the Cosmos fan once again. A long river appeared out of nowhere and crashed towards Qin Yushan. Qin Yushan's expression finally changed. You are too arrogant. 9 dragons in the sky. Qin Yushan's wrist twisted and turned quickly. The whip in his hand was like a long dragon that was dancing in the air. A huge tornado rose from the whip and swept away the long river that was sweeping towards them. However, at that moment, 3 tall mountains descended from the sky without any warning. The mountains came very suddenly, and Qin Yushan was caught off guard. He was immediately crushed by the 3 mountains. Chapter 446. I have not lost yet. Qin Yushan was both embarrassed and angry. The 9-segmented whip left his palm and danced in the air, whipping away the 3 mountains on his body. However, just as it was whipped away, another long river came crashing over. After being severely injured, Qin Yushan's lips were bleeding. His eyes were red, and it was obvious that he was really angry. Explode. Qin Yushan's eyes shone as he gave a low shout. The first segment of the 9-segmented whip exploded on the spot. Long Fighting was not prepared for it and was forced to retreat, his clothes in a mess. Exploding your own divine weapon? You are ruthless. Unfortunately, your abilities are just like this. After speaking, he fanned the Cosmos fan continuously, and 9 mountains came crashing down. Qin Yushan's expression changed, and he shouted anxiously, "Explode!" After a few explosions, the 9 mountains were finally destroyed. However, the price was that half of the divine weapon was destroyed. As for Long Fighting, he was not injured at all. Only his spiritual energy had been slightly depleted. A cornered beast is still fighting. Long Fighting casually fanned the heaven and earth fan once again. For huge mountains descended at the same time. Having lost his divine weapon, Qin Yushan could only destroy one mountain before he was suppressed by the other three. At that moment, he could not move at all. "You, bastard! I have not lost yet." Long Fighting laughed mockingly. "Now, you can only bark like a dog." After speaking, he pressed down casually, and the three mountains became heavier. Qin Yushan screamed and fainted on the spot. With that, he had only used 7 moves. Qin Juyan's expression was calm. He flew down and scooped him up, then injected some spiritual energy into him to wake him up. As soon as he woke up, Qin Yushan's expression was fierce. "Wait, I have not slap." A slap landed on his face, and Qin Juyang said calmly, "You have embarrassed yourself enough." After speaking, he brought him back to the stone pillar. With such a temperament, he still wants to participate in a mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. It seems that he is a young master who has been spoiled by his family. When he sparred with others, he felt that it was natural for others to give him a handicap. This kind of person who can't afford to lose will most likely die in a dangerous place like the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Why bother? When he heard those harsh words, Qin Yushan's face turned pale. The hatred in his mind deepened. Unfortunately, when he saw Su Yu's expressionless face, he felt that Su Yu was looking down on him. He couldn't help but coldly snort. "Is it that funny? Who do you think you are? No matter how weak this young master is, I'm still stronger than an ignorant thing like you." Su Yu glanced sideways at him and spoke to him for the first time. "You're crazy." At this time, the first of the 9 dragon patterns under the stone pillar started to fluctuate. This indicated that the intensity of their energy fluctuations was only equivalent to the first dragon pattern. This caused the hearts of everyone present to sink. To think that a fight between 2 sovereign personages could only trigger 1 dragon. Activating this diagram was far more difficult than expected. At the same time, an inch-long flying dragon appeared on top of Long Fighting's head, symbolizing his performance in this round. The winner can continue to challenge the loser. Long Fighting's cold gaze flashed as he looked at the group they were in. According to the rules, Qin Yushan, who had already been challenged, was not included. But the remaining 3 people, 2 were half-gods. How could he dare to challenge them? "Then you shall be the Black Snow Devil King." Long Fighting shrugged his shoulders helplessly. "There is no one else I can challenge, so I can only challenge you." So you calmly descended, calmly saying, "Make your move." Long Fighting examined Su Yu. "Humph, I have heard of your name. Number 1 person of the same generation in the North Continent? You are quite famous, but your abilities are average. I can only say that the North Continent does not have any decent talents. That is why it is your turn to enjoy the title of number 1 in the North Continent." Su Yu creased his brows. "You are very long-winded. I will say it one last time. Make your move." Long Fighting snorted. "Since I have chosen you, I naturally will not bully the weak. How about this? I will give you a handicap of 3. But before he could finish his sentence, Su Yu disappeared from the sky like a phantom, leaving behind a blurry afterimage. Long Fighting's expression changed, his naked eyes scanning the area quickly. He immediately found traces of Su Yu, his expression turning grave. "I gave you a chance, but you did not want it. Don't blame me." After saying this, he fanned his Cosmos fan repeatedly. 9 mountains appeared, crashing towards Su Yu. Crack! But the mountains that flew out were instantly turned into ice mountains. Then, under the extreme cold, they shattered with a rumble, turning into countless ice shards. Su Yu dove into the lightning, passing through the sky filled with ice shards, heading straight for Long Fighting. Long Fighting's expression changed. Without hesitation, he fanned his Cosmos fan again. A great, torrential river surged. But the Long River had just appeared when Su Yu's body glowed with a red light. The entire Long River evaporated in an instant. A terrifying fireball even passed through the water vapor and bombarded the Cosmos fan. Creak! The Cosmos fan, a middle-grade divine artifact, was incinerated in an instant. Long Fighting's expression froze, filled with disbelief. "It's over." At this moment, a calm voice entered his ears. The next moment, a fist landed on his abdomen. A powerful force pierced through his body. A bolt of energy passed through his body, shooting toward the direction of the Heavenly Law Alliance's stone pillar. Wherever the energy passed, the air moved, containing a sharp energy. Many of the human kings present had grave expressions. What a powerful body! Just the remnant energy that passed through his body did not lose to that of most of the human kings present. Whoa! Seeing that the energy was about to strike the Heavenly Law Alliance's stone pillar, a slender hand grabbed forward, extinguishing the energy. Long Wuxin looked down apathetically. She raised her hand, grabbing the half-conscious Long Fighting. Your performance was acceptable, Long Wuxin said apathetically, tossing him aside. Long Fighting had not recovered from Su Yu's ruthless and barbaric methods. He said in a daze, I have let you down. I used 7 moves to defeat Qin Yushan. While I said your performance was acceptable, I did not mean that you used 7 moves against Qin Yushan. I can only say that you are trash. Your performance was acceptable. You withstood 2 moves from the Black Snow Devil King. Originally, I had expected that you would not be able to withstand even 1 move. What? Could not withstand even 1 move? Long Fighting could not believe his ears. Was the Black Snow Devil King that strong in Long Wuxin's eyes? But thinking back to the battle just now, it was as if the two of them had completely suppressed each other. If not for the fact that he was using the Cosmos Fan, which was considered a long-range attack, he might have been killed in 1 move if they had clashed head-on. Su Yu stood at his original position quietly, waiting for the announcement. The Black Snow Devil King wins. At the same time, 2 of the 9 dragon tattoos under his feet glowed with a crystalline light. In other words, Su Yu had activated the 3rd dragon pattern all by himself. At the same time, a 3-inch-long golden dragon appeared above his head. In terms of size, it was 3 times the size of Long Fighting's head. At that moment, the stone pillar was completely silent. Su Yu's storm-like attacks had intimidated some people. A playful expression appeared on Qin Zhuyang's face. Interesting. Although my instincts tell me that the Black Snow Demon Sovereign is very strong, it looks like he is extraordinarily strong. Aside from the Divine Eagle of the 7 Lords of Darkness, there are probably not many sovereign personages here who can fight him. Regarding this, Gang Dalei was deeply convinced. Of course, who do you think you are? How could the brother that I, Gang Dalei, know be weak? Just based on the reputation of the Black Snow Devil King, he would not be any weaker. Qin Zhuyang smiled, turning his head and calmly saying, Now, do you know the difference between you and him? Qin Yushan was still in shock. Su Yu's overbearing and fierce attacks had shocked him deeply. Long Fighting had defeated him in 7 moves. But Su Yu had only used 2 moves to defeat Long Fighting. The few human kings of the 4 great ancient clans had serious expressions. It seemed like the next time would be Su Yu's challenge. Would he challenge them? Among the 7 Lords of Darkness, Bai Luo looked at Su Yu indifferently, creasing his brows. Why did the intelligence not show that the Black Snow Devil King had such abilities? Qing Zhu, Yu, both of you worked together with him in the Dragon Abyss. Qing Zhu's expression was extremely ugly. Whether it was in the open or in the dark, he had more or less looked down on the Black Snow Devil King. But after not seeing him for a month, the Black Snow Devil King, who was far inferior to him, had become so frightening. Even though he was unwilling to admit it, Qing Zhu knew that even if he were to fight, his ending would not be any better than Long Fighting's. Yu revealed a gratified expression. She naturally knew that the abilities of the Black Snow Devil King were not limited to this. When he was still in Immortal Realm level 4, he could fight a half-god Azura to the death without suffering any losses. The abilities he had displayed now were clearly not his limits. I do not know either, Yu calmly replied. I have never seen him fight. The purple-robed man laughed. Unintentionally, a pair of dark red eyes flashed beneath his hat. The victor has the right to continue challenging the next person. Since both of you have already challenged each other twice, you will choose your opponent from the other 3 stone pillars for the next round. Hearing this, the 4 great ancient clans became nervous. Qing Zhu's expression also changed slightly. His relationship with the Black Snow Devil King was not pleasant. If he took the opportunity to take revenge, Lord Shining, come down. Su Yu did not raise his head, standing in the middle of the plaza with his hands clasped behind his back. Everyone was shocked. If one were to compare the forces present, it would not be the four great ancient clans. It would be the seven lords of darkness. They were geniuses chosen by the King of Darkness. Every one of them had powerful battle abilities that surpassed those of the same level. It was rumored that the human king Lord Shining had long since entered the human king realm. His abilities were far above Qing Zhu's, and he was close to the half-god realm. Su Yu had chosen Lord Shining of all people. Qin Zhuyang laughed. Interesting. Bai Luo slightly creased his brows, looking at Su Yu deeply before calmly withdrawing his gaze. Lord Shinying's long and narrow eyes gradually narrowed, his lips forming a cold, disdainful smile. Your courage in challenging me is commendable, but you overestimate your abilities. Su Yu's expression was calm, suppressing the killing intent in his heart. He calmly said, Shining, come down. Chapter 447. Thump. Shun Ying landed, smashing the ground with a loud rumble. Su Yu calmly sized him up. This was a human king whom he could not even retaliate against. At the Phoenix Cabinet, he was the one who had injured Ling Xiaotian. He was the one who had wanted to kill Su Yu on the spot. He was the one who had captured the two of them alive. At that time, Su Yu could not retaliate. At the Empire headquarters, he was the one who had framed Ling Xiaotian and wanted to kill him. He was the one who had forced Ling Xiaotian to sacrifice his life essence to extend Su Yu's future. To this day, Ling Xiaotian was still on the brink of death, unable to awaken. That day, when Su Yu had escaped, he had sworn to avenge himself with blood. From that day on, Su Yu had used Ling Xiaotian's life to extend his life, all the way to this day, all the way to Shuning. He had waited for this battle for far too long. Why? Do you have a grudge against me? Shuning sharply sensed the killing intent Su Yu was emitting. Su Yu's expression was calm. Make your move, he said indifferently. Shunying's eyes flashed, his nostrils flaring. Who cares who you are? You are unlucky to have met me. Shunying's human king aura slowly spread. It was clearly different from Long Fighting's powerful aura, surging towards Su Yu. Su Yu felt a sense of pressure. The circulation of his spirit energy was a little sluggish. His abilities were indeed strong, very close to the half-god realm. If he had more time, it would not be difficult for him to break through to half-god. Demonic Blood Palm. Shunying's attack was stage 2 top class of an immortal level technique. This scene caused the eyes of many geniuses to twitch. How could they not know the difficulty of cultivating an immortal level technique? It was extremely difficult to successfully cultivate to stage 2. To progress further to the upper class or top class, one would need a powerful level of comprehension. Shuning was indeed worthy of being ranked second among the seven lords of darkness. As the demonic blood palm pressed down, Su Yu felt a gust of wind. A bloody glow illuminated the surroundings, making it look extremely glaring. Su Yu's gaze was calm. The ice within his body surged forth, turning into a normal palm, clashing with Shun Ying's demonic blood palm. With a dull thud, Shun Ying's demonic blood palm froze. At the same time, a physical force was transmitted through the ice palm, causing Shun Ying to groan and retreat 3 steps. The stone pillar was completely silent. In a direct confrontation, the divine eagle was actually at a disadvantage. However, there were some who were even more astonished. That ice power is extremely close to the origin. This person has such a high attainment in the ice Tao. Even Qing Zhu couldn't help but praise from the bottom of his heart. Yu smiled. Is that so? Qin Zhuyang frowned slightly. His achievements in the Tao of Ice are extraordinary. According to what I know, any element that condenses its origin will be reborn. Gang Dalei looked at Su Yu with a complicated expression. The origin does not seem to be very useful in the Jinlong continent. I heard that Jiuzhou places great importance on the origin. Bai Luo's expression was indifferent. He observed Su Yu quietly, and no one knew what he was thinking. Su Yu looked at the retreating Shun Ying coldly. He took a step forward and shook his head. You become weaker. The disdainful expression on Shun Ying's face gradually froze and was replaced by anger and humiliation. He had entered the battle with such confidence, but who would have thought that he would be at a disadvantage in the exchange just now? Humph! I was careless. You won't be so lucky next. Buzz, buzz, a blood-red light glowed on his broken right palm, forming a blood-red ball of light the size of a fist. The lines were clear, like a human fist. The only difference was that there was an evil energy within the fist. There was also something squirming within the ball of light. Thanks to a slut, said Shunning. Even though I've lost my palm, I have obtained another kind of power. Shunning licked his lips excitedly. His eyes were an unnatural dark red, a sign that an evil spirit had entered his body. Go! Countless red tentacles shot out from the blood-red ball of light, coiling towards Suyu. Crackling sounds could be heard in the air. The spirit energy in the air was being swallowed by the red tentacles. This is the bloodline of the evil ghost of the Ghost Clan? The 4 great ancient clans were slightly shocked. No, it's a little different. It seems even more evil. Before the tentacles got close, a foul stench greeted them. Suyu's expression was calm, once again throwing a punch. This punch was a ball of crimson flames. It transformed into a palm-sized bird, which opened its mouth and swallowed. At once, the foul tentacles evaporated. A violent flame followed the tentacles, burning the arm of the figure. Shun Ying's expression changed. What kind of flame is that? He asked in shock. He didn't remember a flame being able to burn away the energy condensed from his blood essence out of thin air. But his reaction was fast. Clenching his teeth, he severed the fist of blood from his palm. Because of that, the giant bird struck his chest, causing him to retreat several steps. In this second exchange, Shun Ying retreated once again. The crowd was amazed. If the first move had forced Shun Ying back, it could be said that he had been caught off guard. But the second time was enough to explain the problem. Shun Ying's expression finally changed. He looked at Suyu again, his expression grave. Who are you? I don't remember offending you. Suyu's enmity made Shun Ying feel uneasy. Attack! Continue, Suyu said calmly. Seeing his opponent's attitude, Shun Ying's eyes flashed, his expression sincere. How about we consider this a draw? If we continue, we will expose our trump cards and enter the mysterious, heavenly divine pavilion. It will be very disadvantageous for us. There were many people who had the same thought. After they entered the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, there would definitely be conflict. If some of their trump cards were discovered, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Suyu stopped in his tracks, slightly tempted. But at that moment, Shun Ying's eyes glowed with killing intent. Die! He shouted. He abruptly took out a blood-red feather from his sleeves. It was pulsing with spirit light, releasing a shocking pressure. This was a top-notch middle-grade divine artifact, on the same level as the Mountain River Dragon Bow. Furthermore, it was in a completely refined state. The feather released a scorching heat. It was a flame that was infinitely close to the origin. Its temperature was shockingly high. Humph, challenging me? You chose the wrong person. Shun Ying let out a low roar, manically injecting spirit energy into the feather. The blood-red flames shot into the sky, turning into a sea of fire that engulfed Suyu, who was caught off guard. The crowd was in an uproar. No one had expected Shun Ying to possess a top-notch middle-grade divine artifact. This was a level that even half-gods might not be able to obtain. Furthermore, the Lord of Darkness had chosen to launch a sneak attack. Although there was no rule against sneak attacks during the sparring session, it was still hard to accept such an act coming from the hands of the 7 Lords of Darkness. Looking at the sea of fire, Shun Ying wiped his battered face. His blood was a little pale, but his face was filled with mockery. All is fair in war. You will die sooner or later if you don't even have a brain. I am merely sending you on your way. Qin Zhuyang and Gang Daily Eye's gazes turned cold. Gang Daily Eye's eyes were filled with coldness. Why? Are we allowed to kill during a sparring session? These words were naturally directed at the 7 Lords of Darkness. The rest of the lords were silent. Even though they were all part of the 7 Lords of Darkness, they could not accept Shun Ying's actions. To launch a sneak attack and kill someone was too unscrupulous. Bai Luo raised his eyes, calmly saying, "Swords have no eyes." It was not intentional to kill someone by mistake. Why? Do you want revenge? He was lying through his teeth. That was a sure kill attack. How could he say that he had made a mistake? Furthermore, he had cunningly accused Gang Dalei of seeking revenge. If Gang Dalei wanted to severely injure or kill someone from the Seven Lords of Darkness, he would have to think twice. With just a few words, he had turned the tables on Gang Dalei. Gang Dalei's eyes flashed with a cold light. Such tricks are useless against me. Since the Seven Lords of Darkness dared to kill someone, there is no need for me to hold back. You can say that I am seeking revenge. But if any of you meet me, do not blame me for killing you. Bai Luo's expression turned serious. You are too unreasonable, Scram. Who do you think you're to talk reason with me? I only have one principle. If you dare to do something, I will do the same to you. As for the cripple below, I will lend you his head for a while. I will personally kill you later. He had not interacted much with Su Yu, but he was a righteous person. If Su Yu died, he would definitely take revenge. Lord Shenying's expression turned rigid. The mockery on his face gradually froze, his eyelids twitching wildly. This person wanted to kill him for Su Yu. A shred of regret welled up in his heart. Bai Luo's expression was a little ugly. He muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "Shenying, if you meet him, just admit defeat." The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion had existed for a long time, and its dueling system was abnormally perfect. If one party admitted defeat, and the other party continued to pursue the other party, the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion would naturally punish the person who broke the rules. Hearing this, Lord Shenying's expression relaxed a little. His lips once again revealed a cold smile. In other words, he had already killed Su Yu. What could they do to him? However, at this moment, from within the raging flames, a light voice sounded. "Brother Dalei, I appreciate your kindness. However, it is better to avenge one's own grudge." Everyone was shocked. He had not died within the raging flames. How is that possible? Whew! The raging flames suddenly exploded. A crimson figure quickly flew out from within, turning into a fragmentary line as it closed in on Lord Shenying. Lord Shenying was caught off guard, and he was ruthlessly struck in the face. Thump! With a dull thud, everyone looked over to see Su Yu, his body covered in terrifying flames, stomping Lord Shenying's face in the ground. The temperature of the flames on his body was many times more terrifying than the raging flames from the blood-colored feather. Those flames could not harm Su Yu in the slightest. Assassin. Su Yu's eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. He lowered his head to look at Lord Shenying, who was being stepped on. He coldly said, "As always, this suits your despicable style. Unfortunately, I am no longer the me of the past. As for you, you are still the you of the past." Su Yu exerted force beneath his feet. The flames of the origin howled, enveloping Lord Shenying. Chapter 448. Actually, when Su Yu stepped on him with the flames of the origin, he had no chance of survival. Hence, the Seven Lords of Darkness did not even attack. Lord Shenying, ranked second among the Seven Lords of Darkness, had fallen just like that. The entire place was silent. Bai Luo's expression was sinister. "You killed him." Su Yu calmly raised his eyes and fearlessly looked into his eyes. He then said calmly, "Yes, I killed him. I killed him on purpose. If you want revenge, you can find me anytime." His words were a stark contrast to Bai Luo's sophistry. Bai Luo's expression became even more sinister. "Fine, I will take your life later." Su Yu's expression did not change. Anytime, Black Snow Devil King wins. With a light sound, the fourth dragon pattern of the 9 dragons below was activated. Su Yu alone had activated 3 patterns. At the same time, the golden dragon above his head grew from 3 inches long to 6 inches long. You have won 2 rounds consecutively. According to the rules, step down. The other person on your stone pillar will choose to challenge the next person. Hearing this, Su Yu flew back to the stone pillar. The gazes of the crowd towards Su Yu had completely changed. At this moment, no one doubted his title as the strongest fighter below the half-god level. He had easily killed Lord Shenning. Which human king would be able to fight against him? Qin Zhuoyang's eyes were filled with respect. Brother Black Snow, you have hidden your abilities well. To think that you have cultivated the fire origin. The power of origin was also quite harmful to half-deities. So you smiled modestly. I was just lucky. Gang Daily Eyes snickered and said, who knows, he might have even managed to cultivate the ice origin. Qin Zhuoyang's heart trembled, and he took note of it. Brother Gang, are you going up, or should I? Qin Zhuoyang asked. According to the rules, so you had 1-2 rounds consecutively. Hence, they still had the right to initiate the challenge. Gang Daily Eye laughed. Is there a difference between you and me? Our opponents are only those two. As half-gods, they naturally would not lower themselves to challenge the human kings. Let me do it. Qin Zhuoyang smiled. His gaze moved back and forth between Long Wuxin and Lord Bai Luo. In the end, it landed on Lord Bai Luo. I heard that you've just become a demigod as well. You're in a similar situation as me. Challenging you is the most suitable choice. Bai Luo's eyes flashed. I couldn't ask for more. The two of them landed on the square and looked at each other for a moment from a distance of several hundred feet. Qin Zhuoyang. Qin Zhuoyang introduced himself, and his expression was slightly solemn. Lord Bai Luo's face was calm. Bai Luo, make your move. If you can last 10 moves, it will be considered your victory. Qin Zhuoyang raised his eyebrows slightly. He did not feel that he was being insulted. Instead, since Lord Bai Luo was so confident, it could be seen that he definitely had a reason to be confident in a trump card. Since that's the case, I won't stand on ceremony. Qin Zhuoyang did not reject. Clang! Qin Zhuoyang took off the jade crown on his head, and his long black hair scattered softly. His cultured and refined temperament suddenly had an additional sense of unrestrained wildness. From the jade crown in his hands, he took out an extremely thin and long hairpin. The hairpin looked extremely normal. However, after spiritual energy was inserted into it, it released an extremely strong spiritual pressure. It was impressively a top-notch middle-grade divine weapon. Be careful, Qin Zhuoyang said, and he threw the divine artifact in his hands into the sky. At once, the illusionary images of 99 hairpins appeared in the sky. Every hairpin was extremely realistic, no different from a real hairpin. They released an extremely strong spiritual pressure. As Qin Zhuoyang pointed with his finger, the 99 hairpins covered Bai Luo's head like a pear blossom rainstorm. The illusionary hairpin, which was hard to distinguish, had a shocking momentum. Suyu was even more shocked. Divine artifacts could be used in such a manner? Bai Luo looked at the 99 hairpins that were shooting toward him calmly, and he actually had the leisure to comment. Not a bad divine artifact. Although they look like illusions, in reality, every single one of them is real. If you really treat a portion of them as illusions, you might die a terrible death. After his speech, he extended a finger and drew a circle in front of him, after which a shocking scene appeared. The circle created a vortex out of thin air, and the hairpins that were shooting toward him were all swallowed by the vortex. Qin Zhuoyang's expression changed. Not only did Bai Luo see through the secret of the hairpins, he could also easily neutralize them. That strange circle actually swallowed all of the hairpins. What technique is this? No, this is not a technique. No, this wasn't a cultivation technique. It was a constitution. A constitution with innate space talent can swallow everything. Qin Zhuoyang said seriously. Bai Luo laughed indifferently. You have good eyesight, but you're only half right. My constitution is not only able to swallow space. It can also shift. Qin Zhuoyang was stunned, after which his expression changed, and he abruptly shifted 100 zhang away from his original position. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as he was about to leave, a vortex silently appeared behind him, and a dense number of hairpins shot out from it. That was Qin Zhuoyang's attack. Bai Luo had used his magical space powers to return all of his opponent's attacks. Qin Zhuoyang's expression turned serious. As he was about to attack, his expression suddenly changed again. Without hesitation, he shifted another 30 zhang away. Behind him, a vortex appeared. However, what attacked him was not a weapon, but Bai Luo's palm. Looking closely, he realized that Bai Luo had his hands behind his back. From Qin Zhuyang's angle, he naturally could not see that his hands were enveloped by a vortex. So he was slightly shocked. He had also controlled a magical space power and was misunderstood by others as having innate space talent. However, seeing Bai Luo with his own eyes, he knew how frightening a true innate space talent was. Even his body parts could be easily warped to another space to attack. It was extremely strange. "Oh, your reaction is not bad." Lord Bai Luo laughed as he commented. Qin Zhuyang felt the pressure increase. After thinking for some time, he took a light breath. "Looks like I can only use my trump card." He pulled a strand of long hair from his head and wrapped it around his little finger. After which, Qin Zhuyang muttered some words that he was not familiar with. As soon as the words left his mouth, Su Yu felt extremely uncomfortable and disgusted by them. Everyone present had the same expression, but did not understand why. Xia Jingyu waved her hands, and a water membrane appeared on her body. Ripples were visible to the naked eye on the water membrane, as if something invisible was hitting the water membrane. Xia Jingyu looked at Qin Xiener and Su Yu, transmitting her voice to them at the same time. Every clan of the 8 great ancient clans has their own specialties. The Yu clan specializes in controlling demonic beasts. The Tu clan specializes in refining divine weapons, and the Qin clan specializes in curse techniques. Curse techniques do not originate from the Jinlong continent. As for where they came from, we have yet to verify. While Su Yu secretly admired Lord Yu's knowledge, he was also secretly surprised. Curse techniques? What kind of thing was that? As he muttered the incantation, the strand of hair on Qin Zhuyang's little finger disappeared strangely, turning into nothingness. However, at the next moment, that strand of hair appeared on Bai Luo's little finger. Bai Luo's indifferent expression finally had some changes. Without thinking, he shook the strand of hair into pieces. However, on his little finger, there was an imprint of a strand of hair being wrapped around it. What a strange secret technique. Bai Luo stopped underestimating Qin Zhuyang. With a thought, a vortex appeared under Qin Zhuyang's feet. A bolt of penetrating spirit energy shot out suddenly. What was strange was that Qin Zhuyang smiled, but did not avoid it. The bottom of his feet was hit at once, and a dull thud could be heard. It seemed like the bottom of his feet had been pierced through. However, Lord Bai Luo's expression changed abruptly, and his facial features became slightly distorted. That was a distortion caused by pain. When he lowered his head to take a look, his right foot had been pierced through, and fresh blood flowed out continuously. As for Qin Zhuyang's foot, it was completely unharmed. Su Yu's pupils dilated slightly. The strangeness of the curse techniques caused one to gasp in admiration. It was clear that the person who was injured just now was Qin Zhuyang, but the damage had been completely transferred to Bai Luo. A thread of anger appeared in Bai Luo's eyes, and he gave a cold "All right, I was careless. I do not need to hold back anymore." Creak. 9 vortexes suddenly appeared in the space and time around Qin Zhuyang, sealing off all of his escape routes. Bai Luo creased his brows. Since Bai Luo knew that he would return the damage if he was injured, what was the meaning of Bai Luo's action? Bai Luo's expression was cold, and he took out 9 fine, dazzling steel needles from his chest. Each of them was a middle-grade divine artifact. He tossed them into the air, and an extremely weak space energy appeared around the 9 steel needles, enveloping them. When they appeared again, they were among the 9 space vortexes that imprisoned Qin Zhuyang. The 9 steel needles shot out from 9 directions, and they wanted to pierce through Qin Zhuyang's heart and kill him. Bai Luo said coldly, "All spells are carried out with the life of the caster. Once the caster dies, the spell will also be undone. If I were to kill you on the spot, the spell would naturally come into contact with you. The damage that you have suffered would naturally not be transferred to me." Qin Zhuyang's pupils dilated. It was obvious that his secret had been exposed. "Stop, I." Feeling death approaching, Qin Zhuoyang admitted defeat on the spot. However, Bai Luo's eyes flashed with murderous intents. The steel needles shot out explosively at twice the speed, piercing through Qin Zhuoyang's heart. He did not give Qin Zhuoyang any chance to admit defeat. This person's ruthlessness could be seen clearly. However, what made Bai Luo's expression turn grave was that the body of Qin Zhuoyang, who had been attacked, became blurry and turned into a palm-sized scarecrow. 9 steel needles were pierced into his body. As for Qin Yushan, who was beside Su Yu, the scarecrow in his hands suddenly disappeared. What replaced it was Qin Zhuoyang, who had appeared out of thin air. This was another type of curse technique. The battle between the two of them was an eye-opener for Su Yu, especially Qin Zhuoyang's curse technique, which made everyone exclaim in admiration. If the person who was trapped by the strand of hair did not have the ability to kill Qin Zhuoyang instantly, he would most likely be killed by Qin Zhuoyang. Furthermore, even if he could kill Qin Zhuoyang instantly, he still had the strange life-saving technique of the substitute puppet. Everyone in the audience stared at Qin Zhuoyang, extremely fearful. Even Long Wuxin's gaze, when she looked at Qin Zhuoyang, had an additional tinge of fear. Although Qin Zhuoyang had been defeated, no one dared to doubt his battle abilities. Of course, Bai Luo's innate space talent was also abnormal, especially when he released 9 space vortexes consecutively, instantly restricting his opponent, making him unable to move. After which, he used the 9 divine artifact steel needles to kill his opponent. If not for Qin Zhuoyang's magical, life-saving technique of the substitute puppet, once one fell into the vortexes, it would be the same as being marked with the label of death. As expected, strong martial artists of half-gods were not to be provoked. Lord Bai Luo wins. The 5th dragon on the 9-dragon pattern on the ground suddenly lit up. On top of Lord Bai Luo's head, a golden dragon that was 6 inches long appeared. Only 1 dragon pattern? Bai Luo had a thoughtful expression, obviously not satisfied with the result. The intensity of the battle, just now, should have far exceeded that of Su Yu. Unexpectedly, the result was not satisfactory. The sloppy old man's eyes glowed. "Oh, the 5th dragon pattern has been activated. Not bad. It is stronger than the time 10,000 years ago. Next, let's see if the 6th dragon pattern can be activated. Once it is activated, the resources of the place transported to will be comparable to the geniuses of Juzhou. Only then will there be a possibility of breaking through to the fairy realm." The whispers of the audience stopped abruptly as Bai Luo raised his head. Next, it was Bai Luo's turn to challenge. That kind of mysterious space secret technique would kill anyone who came into contact with it. "Bai Luo, how about I fight you?" Gang Dalei opened his eyes, the light on the surface of his body dispersing, faintly revealing his true form. Su Yu had known Gang Dalei for a long time, but had only seen his incarnation. He had never seen his true form. Your stone pillars have fought enough. It is time for us to fight." Long Wuxin's cold eyes swept over, not allowing any argument. Bai Luo ignored the two of them, his cold eyes looking straight at Su Yu. "You still think you can get lucky? Even without my reminder, you should know that it is time for you to come down." The person he wanted to challenge was undoubtedly Su Yu. Moreover, he was challenging Su Yu with the intention to kill. "Who are you talking to?" A cold voice came from behind Bai Luo. Bai Luo turned his head to look, slightly shocked. Su Yu was actually behind him. When he looked at Su Yu, who was on the stone pillar, he became blurry, gradually dispersing. It was a fragmentary shadow. Chapter 449. Bai Luo turned to look. Su Yu was 1,000 feet behind him. He wore a transparent cloak, his blood-colored hair moving without any wind. His eyes, as clear as the starry sky, emitted an indescribable coldness. "Insignificant tricks," Bai Luo calmly said, standing in his original position with his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. "You have done something foolish." Su Yu observed the person in front of him. Ling Xiaoyan's current predicament was all thanks to this person. "Shining, was merely carrying out his orders. The real culprit was Bai Luo, an ambitious person who wanted to control the Empire of Darkness. "If you want to fight, then fight," Su Yu shouted. "I cannot help you become the King of Darkness." Bai Luo's gaze turned cold. It was not a secret that he coveted the position of the King of Darkness. But knowing was one thing, and saying it out loud was another. The Empire of Darkness is not a place you could defame. Be prepared to bear the consequences. Bai Luo let out a cold grunt. Su Yu laughed, his laughter a little maniacal and wanton. "Defame? Ha! There are not many people in this world who have the right to defame the Empire of Darkness. I am one of them." As a deputy palace master of the Empire of Darkness, he clearly had no intention of rebelling. However, he was forced to leave the Empire of Darkness and live in seclusion. If he did not have a right, how many people did? These words caused many people to be secretly astonished. Why did it seem like the Black Snow Devil King had some sort of unknown relationship with the Empire of Darkness in the past? Thinking back to Su Yu's indistinct hostility toward Shaning, as well as his current attitude, they could not help but suspect the identity and background of the Black Snow Devil King. But the Empire of Darkness had influence all over the world. They did not know how many enemies they had, and it was difficult to ascertain when the Black Snow Devil King had formed a grudge with the Empire of Darkness. Thus, after thinking for a moment, they became even more suspicious of Su Yu's background. Bai Luo's expression turned cold. "No matter who you are, and no matter what grudges you have with the Empire of Darkness, since you are standing here today, I can only represent the Empire of Darkness to wipe you off the face of this world." Su Yu coldly said, "Say that if you have the ability." Before he could finish his sentence, his body had already moved 30 zhang away. A vortex silently appeared on the ground under his feet, and a pair of palms shot out from it. It was a powerful attack from a demigod. With Su Yu's human king body, his body would be shattered in an instant, and he would be killed with a single strike. Humph! His reaction was not slow, but this is the end. Bai Luo clasped his hands behind his back and stood at his original position, not moving in the slightest. However, a vortex appeared near Su Yu's body, which had just landed, and enveloped his head within it. A finger shot out from the vortex, intending to pierce through Su Yu's head. It was an extremely ruthless move. However, Su Yu was already prepared for this, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll in the park. Although he was in the air, a flight of stairs formed from ice appeared under his feet. Su Yu, who was in midair, tapped the ground with the tip of his toes and used the force to change his direction in midair, easily avoiding the vortex above his head. However, just as his body turned, another vortex silently appeared on his chest. 3 vortexes appeared one after the other. It was impossible to guard against them. Qin Zhuyang, who was at the spectator's platform, secretly broke out in a cold sweat. Such a swift and fierce space attack, even a slight mistake would result in a life-and-death crisis. It was extremely dangerous. The rest of the people also broke out in cold sweat for Su Yu. Seeing that the vortex could not be avoided, a shocking scene appeared. It was as if Su Yu already knew where the next vortex would appear. A flight of ice stairs once again appeared under his feet. He tapped the ground with the tip of his toes and used the force of the rebound to easily avoid the vortex. From the beginning to the end, his movements were as smooth as flowing water, and he did not panic in the slightest. Bai Luo's expression finally changed. You can see through the changes in space in advance. His opponent could no longer be explained by his sensitive senses. His actions, which seemed to be able to predict the future, were enough to show that his strange space secret technique had been seen through by Su Yu in advance. It was not realistic for him to rely on a strange method to kill Su Yu. Su Yu remained silent, his feet landing on the ground. Crack! Bai Luo's expression suddenly changed. His shoulder slipped, and he moved 100 Chinese feet away in a hurry. At the place where he had been standing, a 30 Chinese foot long sharp icicle grew from the ground, piercing through the ground like a long spear. If not for the fact that Bai Luo had reached the half-god realm and could sense heaven and earth, he might have been pierced through on the spot. But Bai Luo had just moved away when the water vapor in the air in front of him suddenly turned into tiny ice shards, condensing into many tiny ice needles, which pierced toward Bai Luo. At such a close distance, Suyu could not avoid it. Seeing that Bai Luo's heart was about to be pierced by the 10,000 needles, a huge vortex appeared around Bai Luo's body. The ice needles, which were attacking him, were all swallowed in one breath. This scene caused everyone to be shocked. When the space secret technique was used to such a level, it was as if he had an undying body. He could dissolve any attack. What was even more shocking was that the Black Snow Devil King, a mere Heaven Master level existence, could exchange blows with a half-god like Bai Luo. Most importantly, Bai Luo's abilities were among the top of the half-gods. Qin Yushan looked at the scene in front of him, his expression turning pale. It turned out that the Black Snow Devil King was so powerful. Bai Luo's expression was a little ugly. He had wanted to end the battle quickly and kill the Black Snow Devil King with lightning speed to take revenge for Shun Ying and save his face. But he did not expect the Black Snow Devil King to be even more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. This is the end. Bai Luo let out a low grunt. 6 vortexes appeared at the same time, surrounding Suyu within them. At the same time, the 6 vortexes shot out ice needles that filled the sky. It looked like they wanted to return the favor to Bai Luo. Such a scene was even more dangerous for Qin Jiuyang. Suyu still wore a relaxed expression. With a flash of cold energy on the surface of his body, the ice needles that filled the sky turned into cold energy that filled the sky, returning to Suyu's body. Dispersing the attack easily, Long Wuxin's phoenix eyes were filled with battle intent. Cultivating ice techniques to such a high level is indeed extraordinarily powerful. I wonder what it would be like if it were to reach the origin. The rest of the people were also shocked. The Black Snow Devil King had cultivated both ice and fire techniques. His fire techniques had been cultivated to the extreme, and he had successfully cultivated the origin. His attainments in ice techniques were also so high that it made one's hair stand on end. Just by relying on ice techniques, he could cause Bai Luo to be unable to attack him. After absorbing the cold energy, Suyu took a step forward and walked out of the confinement of the 6 vortexes. Bai Luo had a ferocious look on his face. I admit that I have underestimated you. You should be proud to be able to fight to this point. After saying this, Bai Luo secretly let out a breath. With a thought, a powerful space ripple radiated from his body. At once, 9 vortexes of space appeared around Suyu. Each vortex sealed off one direction, and the distance between them was less than 10 feet. They forced Suyu into a narrow space that was 20 feet wide. Any random movement would cause him to come into contact with the vortexes, and he would be torn apart by them. This was the secret technique that had defeated Qin Jiuyang. No one had expected Suyu to force Bai Luo to such a state. With a whooshing sound, Bai Luo took out 9 middle-grade divine artifact long needles. As he tossed the needles, a space ripple appeared on the surface of the 9 needles. When they appeared again, they were within the 9 vortexes of space, piercing through Suyu. Qin Jiuyang had barely saved his life with this move. It is too late for you to surrender now. Bai Luo was filled with murderous intent. He clenched his 5 fingers, and the 9 needles turned into a broken thread as they pierced through Suyu. Ding, ding, ding. However, as the crowd was in an uproar, the bloody scene of Suyu's heart being pierced did not appear. Instead, there was the crisp sound of the needles colliding. The 9 needles did not pierce through Suyu. Instead, they collided with an extremely hard object, and all of them fell to the ground. Look, what is on his body? Someone immediately noticed that a black armor had appeared on Suyu's body. The armor was completely black, and it gave off a pitch-black glow. There were 2 barbs extending from the 2 sides of the shoulder armor, and there was a picture of a ferocious beast's head on the chest. The entire armor looked quite extraordinary. The 9 middle-grade divine artifact steel needles did not even leave a mark on the armor when they struck it. Bai Luo's expression changed. What armor is that? Even if it is a high-grade divine artifact, it is impossible for it to not leave a mark. Qin Jiuyang, Gang Dalei, and Long Wuxin were shocked at the same time. What level of treasure was an armor that even a middle-grade divine artifact could not do anything to? The sloppy old Taoist priest's drunken eyes suddenly shot out a sharp glint. This is... Why is it in the Jinlong continent? The purple-robed man covered himself, and his pair of dark red eyes shot out a beam of light abruptly. My eternal stone king armor. I had thought that it was destroyed in the battle that day. To think that it still exists in this world, even though there's a hole in it, and it is only a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. If I can find the eternal stone, it is not impossible to mend it. Moreover, this armor is actually in the hands of this little brat. Even the heavens are helping me. So you let out a satisfied expression. Even though he knew that a middle-grade divine artifact could not injure him, it had not even left a mark on him. The defensive power of this armor was still within his expectations. With a grab, the 9 middle-grade divine artifact steel needles that had fallen to the ground were grabbed by Su Yu's palm. Sensing the 9 steel needles, he realized that the 9 steel needles contained the imprints of other people. This meant that Bai Luo had not refined them, but had simply used the sharpness of the middle-grade divine artifact. These 9 steel needles should belong to a set of treasures. If he could find a way to refine them, the power that they could unleash might not lose to a high-grade divine artifact. With a thought, Su Yu kept the 9 steel needles in his robes, and he secretly transferred them into the cosmos mirror. My divine artifact! Bai Luo's expression turned pale, and his expression turned sinister. Very well. Not only will I take your life, but I will also make you spit out all of my things. So you looked toward him, his expression turning cold. Wait until you have the ability to kill me. Chapter 450. At once, the vortex in front of Su Yu silently exploded, releasing a large amount of space energy. Creak! When Su Yu's sleeve came into contact with it, a shocking scene occurred. The sleeve disappeared on the spot. Yes, it disappeared. It did not turn into ashes or nothingness, but simply disappeared on the spot. If it had come into contact with Su Yu's body, his body parts would have been taken away by the space energy, and the large amount of remaining space energy would have been enough to tear Su Yu into pieces, leaving not even his bones behind. But after exploding a vortex, Bai Luo gave a grunt, his face turning a little pale. In the face of danger, Su Yu became calmer. Without thinking, he casually released a bolt of ice energy, striking the vortex above his head, as if he wanted to shatter it and escape. Bai Luo let out a cold laugh. If my space vortex could be broken so easily, the people who have lost to me would be dreaming. But the ice energy that shot into the vortex was like a clay ox entering the sea, never to return. So you looked at the changes, understanding. As he weaved signs with both hands, he calmly said, "That might not be the case. The energy that space can hold is not limitless. As long as the power of the technique is greater than what the space vortex can handle, it will naturally collapse." Bai Luo's pupils dilated, a look of surprise flashing past his face. The person who heard him noticed Bai Luo's expression, his heart thumping. So he was right. This technique was not without a solution. If the space vortex was so easy to break, would you even have the chance to try? Bai Luo let out a grunt. Su Yu said calmly without hesitation, "If I am not wrong, the space energy that you can use is limited. If you used all of your space energy to create a vortex, I am afraid that only the fairy realm would be able to disperse the vortex. However, you have divided your space energy into 9 parts, so the space energy contained in each vortex will be 10 times weaker. A half-god's power should be able to disperse it. Come out." So you let out a low grunt. His body glowed with a red light, and a dark green shadow clone appeared. Its body was filled with a powerful fire origin. Although it did not have any aura, it gave people a fearful feeling. The dark red shadow clasped her palms together, forming a vortex of fireball between her palms. The power of the origin surged out. Bai Luo's expression turned serious. Although the origin is powerful, it is too arrogant to think that it can break open the space whirlpool. Me too. Suyu said calmly as he stood next to his clone. Both of his palms were joined together, and a pale ice ball was rotating rapidly. Humph, you haven't condensed your origin source yet, so it's useless to me. Is that so? Suyu said indifferently. The ice divine herb beside his dantian suddenly shone with a cold light. The spinning ice ball in his palm immediately radiated an extremely terrifying aura. The ripples swept across the center of the square, causing the 5 stone pillars to crack and solidify. The expressions of the people on the stone pillars changed drastically as they used their spiritual energy to protect themselves. Ice Dao origin. He has also condensed the Ice Dao origin. Gasps could be heard coming from the stone pillars. If a martial artist wanted to cultivate a certain attribute to the extreme and condense an origin, it would require a lifetime of effort and great luck. However, Suyu, who was only 17 years old, had successfully cultivated 2 types of origins. If news of this were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion in the Jinlong continent. Suyu's main body was the Ice Dao origin, while his clone was the Fire Dao origin. The 2 energy balls of the origins, which had completely different attributes, were rotating rapidly. Go! Suyu gave a low grunt. At once, the 2 energy balls revolved around each other, shooting into the space vortex above his head. At once, the vortex alternated between white and red. The 2 colors alternated continuously, flickering rapidly. The whole space vortex shook continuously, expanding and contracting rapidly, like a beating heart. Thump! The crack in the space was destroyed on the spot by the 2 extreme attributes. After creating a gap, Suyu took advantage of the fact that the remaining space energy had not spread toward him to take a step out. Bai Luo, whose face was already pale, turned red in an instant after the second crack in the space was destroyed. He then spat out a mouthful of blood. However, it did not stop there. A sharp ice spear suddenly appeared beneath his feet. Even though Bai Luo was injured, his reaction was extremely fast, moving several Chinese feet away. However, while he was still in the air, a fireball, which was rotating rapidly, shot out from the ground abruptly. Bai Luo's expression changed. He grabbed with his 5 fingers, and the remaining 7 space vortexes disappeared at once. The space energy within the vortexes was instantly absorbed back into his body, surging out quickly and appearing on the surface of his body. The fireball struck the space vortex on the surface of his body, like a clay ox entering the sea. However, Bai Luo had just heaved a sigh of relief when a blood-red ghost face shot out from beneath his feet, biting toward him ferociously. Bai Luo's expression changed greatly. There was actually a 3rd attack. Caught off guard, his calf was bitten by the ghost face. With a roar of pain, a portion of the space energy on the surface of Bai Luo's calf was swallowed. Furthermore, a small piece of his flesh had been bitten off. The blood-red ghost face was chewing greedily, giving off an evil aura. Evil ghost energy. Bai Luo's expression was extremely gloomy. After stopping the bleeding, he retreated 1,000 Chinese feet, glaring at Suyu with extreme hatred. The crowd gasped. The Black Snow Devil King had actually gained the upper hand. Long Wuxin creased her brows. This Black Snow Devil King has many tricks up his sleeves, making him difficult to deal with. Even a normal half-god could be defeated by him. Gang Dalei laughed out loud. Interesting. My brother's bloodline of the evil ghost can swallow all cultivation and flesh in the world. Bai Luo's space physique is contained within the bloodline, so it can be restrained by the evil ghost's power. Suyu withdrew the bloodline of the evil ghost. His clear eyes revealed a shred of evil energy. Not much. With such abilities, you think you can rule the empire of darkness and command the world? His merciless sarcasm reverberated throughout the spacious plaza. Bai Luo was furious. He knew that, with his magical space abilities, no one in the same generation as him could defeat him. However, Suyu had countered him, making it difficult for him to use his full power. That's enough. Bai Luo let out a cold grunt, once again activating his space energy. Suyu used his soul eyes to see through all the changes in his surroundings. He could detect with a glance where the ripples of space were abnormal. Hence, before the space vortex was formed, Suyu could avoid it in advance. However, a half-god's perception of heaven and earth was extremely profound. Bailuo could also sense Suyu's attack quickly, narrowly avoiding it. The two of them exchanged blows, their figures crisscrossing. Ice and fire origins, as well as magical space abilities, clashed intensely in the narrow space. However, neither of them could defeat the other. Qin Yushan looked at Suyu with respect. He was convinced from the bottom of his heart. He could not help but ask, "Brother Jiuyang, if you were to fight with Suyu, what are the chances of you winning?" "What are the chances of me winning?" Qin Jiuyang repeated. If it had been before, Qin Yushan would have asked how many moves Suyu could take from Qin Jiuyang. But now, he was asking if he had any chances of winning against Suyu. Qin Jiuyang thought for a moment before slowly saying, "More losses than wins." Surprisingly, Qin Yushan did not refute him. Instead, he nodded. Black Snow Devil King is indeed unusually strong. At this moment, the two of them had exchanged over 100 moves. Between the two of them, no one was able to completely defeat the other. Chapter 451. 100 moves have passed. It is a draw. Please leave the arena. The two people who were fighting were not surprised and naturally retreated. Only half of the 6 dragon pattern on the pattern beneath their feet had lit up. The two of them had fought for such a long time, but only half of the 6 pattern had been activated. This was far beyond everyone's expectations. This level of fighting has already surpassed the previous battle between 2 half-gods. Long fighting said in shock. But only half of it has been activated. Is there a mistake? Long Wuxin looked at Suyu. That is not the case. You can tell by looking at the changes above their heads. The golden dragon above Suyu's head, which was originally 6 inches long, instantly doubled in size, becoming 15 inches long. Its entire body glowed with a golden light. Bailuo, on the other side, also grew 9 inches, becoming 15 inches long. The growth of a dragon is far greater than in the battle with Qin Jiuyang, the old man said. This means that the battle between the two of them is much more intense. The 6th gate is harder to open than expected. The sloppy old man's eyes gradually brightened. This generation's abilities are much stronger than the one 10,000 years ago. They have not fought many battles, but they have already succeeded in activating half of the 6th pattern. It seems that opening the 6th pattern may not be impossible. Long Jueshin's face was filled with shock. His gaze toward Black Snow Devil King became even more cautious. This lad had hidden such shocking abilities. It was truly unexpected. Thinking back to that day in the Heavenly Law Alliance, if he had truly fought, he might not have been able to subdue him in 1 or 2 moves. Both of you have left the arena. According to the rules, the 2 parties in a draw lose the right to continue challenging each other. From the other 3 stone pillars, the stone pillar with the fewest attacks will choose 1 person to fight. Up until now, only the people from the 4 great ancient clans and the purple-robed man had not fought. Very quickly, a person descended. He had long green hair and small eyes. He was the genius fighter from the Sure clan. He had the aura of a top-notch human king, and his abilities were no weaker than long fightings. He looked around, and when his gaze swept past Suyu, it almost skipped over him. He did not hesitate in the slightest. Although the Black Snow Devil King had snatched the Sure clan's congratulatory gift during the wedding, he did not have the slightest intention of stealing it. In the hearts of most human kings, Suyu is a strong martial artist similar to a half-god. In the end, his gaze landed on Qin Yushan. Just as he was about to speak, he received a notification from the plaza. The first challenger cannot choose the loser. Once he said this, his expression turned ugly. He once again chose someone he thought was weaker. Finally, his gaze landed on Lord Yu, who was ranked 7th among the 7 Lords of Darkness. You come down and fight. The 7 Lords of Darkness revealed playful expressions at the same time. Yu chuckled, then floated down. Her figure was elegant and her demeanor was moving. All right, make your move. Lord Yu's plain and clean hands formed a seal each, preparing for battle. My name is Shurjia. Sorry for the offense. Sure, Jie said and disappeared. Many human flesh eyes lost track of Sure Jie. What a fast identity, as expected of the Sure clan of the 8 great ancient clans. In terms of attainments and movement techniques, it is difficult for any faction to catch up. On the stone pillar, Long Wuxin could not help but nod slightly in praise. The other experts were also in an uproar, so he was slightly surprised. Even with his soul eyes, he could only faintly see a dark green afterimage, which was extremely blurry. Even the half-gods present could not match this person's speed. In terms of movement techniques, this person could be rank number 1. In the blink of an eye, the 100 zhong distance between the two of them was closed. But Xia Jingyu did not seem to have time to react, still maintaining her position as she formed a seal. It's over. Sure Jie let out a low grunt. From the void, a palm strangely extended, slashing toward Iyu's neck. But at this moment, Iyu's lips formed a slight smile. Her fingers formed a seal, spinning at an unbelievable speed. The surface of her body suddenly became hazy. Multiple water dragons suddenly appeared from within her body, catching her opponent off guard. Sure Jie was shocked. Without another word, he formed another seal, his movement technique becoming blurry as he escaped the entanglement. But at this moment, Iyu formed another seal in an almost negligible amount of time. A curtain of water descended from the sky, turning into a cage that enveloped Sure Jie. Without waiting for Sure Jie to react, another attack came. His expression changed, and he passively defended himself. But just as he was defending himself, 10 different types of attacks came from all directions. Sure Jie was flustered, and he was carelessly sent flying. But that was not the end. Almost 20 attacks descended once again. The entire battle arena was filled with Iyu's attacks. Water splashed everywhere, and it was a shocking sight. Sure Jie's face turned pale, and he was frightened. I admit defeat. With a loud roar, his body flashed, and he was sent back to the stone pillar. Lord Iyu wins. A 5-inch golden dragon appeared above her head. This was almost equivalent to a battle between half-gods. The 7 lords of darkness snickered secretly. This is interesting. Of all the people he could have chosen, he chose Iyu. Apart from Bai Luo, no one else in the 7 lords of darkness is a match for her. Everyone present was secretly shocked. That terrifying speed of forming seals, as well as the ability to use 30 different techniques in an instant, was truly amazing. Iyu looked around, her gaze landing on Long Wuxin. We are both female cultivators. Let's fight. Long Wuxin was the female genius with the highest chance of advancing to the fairy realm. Long Wuxin looked interested. If it was someone else challenging me, I might not have bothered, but you are indeed interesting. Whoosh! Long Wuxin had been sitting just a moment ago. The next moment, she appeared opposite Iyu with her hands behind her back. Her long robe fluttered even though there was no wind. At that moment, she exuded an unparalleled aura, as if she was an empress, ruling over the world. Make your move. I'll give you 3 breaths time. Iyu's expression was calm. 3 breaths is enough to determine the victor. Iyu formed seals with both hands, once again using her miraculous speed of forming seals, as well as her countless attack techniques, to shock the entire arena. In just 3 breaths' time, a total of 90 attacks covered the entire arena. There are all sorts of attacks, dazzling and shocking. There were even stage 3 immortal-level techniques among them. A total of 90 attacks were released at the same time, which was equivalent to 90 human kings attacking at the same time. Bai Luo, Qin Zhuyang, and Gang Dalai, who were watching, were all shocked. Even they would find it difficult to defend against such an attack. But Long Wuxin, who was in the midst of it, was calm, her eyes filled with battle intent. Suddenly, an illusory figure appeared behind him. It was extremely blurry and seemed to be an incomparably huge box. Creak! The box opened abruptly, and a blinding golden light filled the entire arena. There were also countless powerful auras sweeping out. Waves of destructive energy, which caused one's skin to crawl, radiated in all directions. Even the half-gods present could not look directly at the blinding golden light. Even with Su Yu's soul eyes, his soul still felt a slight pain when he looked at it. But in the blur, Su Yu could clearly see the situation within the box. There were countless divine artifacts within. There were more than 1,000 divine artifacts densely packed together. Yes, thousands of divine artifacts. Kill. Following Long Wuxin's high-spirited finger, hundreds of glittering golden divine artifacts flew out from within the box. All of them displayed shocking battle abilities. With a sweep, the 90 attacks that EU had formed were instantly dispersed. EU's face turned pale, looking at the golden box. She could not help but exclaim, "It is rumored that the Heavenly Law Alliance has an ancient box that can store divine weapons that have appeared over the past 10,000 years. But this ancient box has a powerful spiritual intelligence and is never controlled by anyone. To think that you have successfully controlled it." The sloppy old man's eyes glowed. "My goodness, even fairies like us cannot control this item. This lass is only a half-god, yet she managed to tame it. If this were to spread, the entire continent would be shocked. A divine artifact that even fairies could not control. What kind of existence was that?" All of the geniuses present, faced with the absolute suppression brought by the ancient box, were fearful. "I've lost." EU smiled politely, then gracefully returned to her stone pillar. A 10-inch golden dragon instantly appeared above Long Wuxin's head. Su Yu had only managed to form it to 15 inches in 3 battles, but Long Wuxin had managed to do so in 1 battle. Her battle abilities were extremely strong, but the pattern beneath her feet did not show any signs of activity. It still looked like it was only half activated. If she wanted to fully activate it, she needed a stronger challenge. "The purple-robed man over there, come down. Only I can fight here." Long Wuxin looked toward the mysterious purple-robed man without hesitation. Speaking of which, this person had never fought before. Even his name was unknown. "I admit defeat." But the purple-robed man did not even think admitting defeat on the spot. Bai Qi admits defeat. EU wins. The golden dragon above her head grew by 3 inches. Long Wuxin creased her brows. She looked at her opponent deeply, then flew back to her stone pillar. "Next, the stone pillar that has not fought yet," she said. Among the 5 stone pillars, only the purple-robed man, Bai Qi, had not fought. He did not even have the chance to admit defeat. "Since I must fight, I shall give it a try," Bai Qi sighed, descending normally. Bai Qi sighed and descended in a very normal manner. He pointed his finger at Bai Luo and said, "You can come down." Bai Luo's expression turned grave. This person did not dare accept Long Wuxin's challenge. Instead, he challenged him by name. To Bai Luo, this was naked. "Naked. Naked. Disdain. All right, I will fight you to the end." Bai Luo flew down. His feet had only just stabilized when a spatial vortex appeared behind Bai Qi. A pair of fists extended from the vortex, ruthlessly slamming toward his back. The attack was cunning, sudden, and ruthless, but Bai Qi seemed to have sensed it. His brows did not move, but he wore a disdainful smile. Bang! Bai Luo's sneak attack was successful, ruthlessly attacking Bai Qi's back. A loud sound could be heard, followed by a grunt. But Bai Qi stood at his original position, not moving an inch. The one retreating was Bai Luo. A trickle of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His pupils shrank to the size of a needle, and he cried out in shock, "Your physical body! Impossible! Could you be a fairy?" Bai Qi laughed mockingly. "Why don't you try again?" Chapter 452. Bai Luo's expression changed, not daring to be careless. He retracted the space energy he had released into his body, forming a giant space vortex on the surface of his body. This was Bai Qi's life-saving technique, making him almost undefeatable. Creak! However, the purple afterimage attacked. Upon contact, the space vortex froze for a moment, then was destroyed on the spot. A black palm mercilessly struck Bai Luo's chest. Crack! The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Bai Luo's eyes were wide open, blood spurting from his mouth. His body was like a broken thread as he flew out of the plaza. The sloppy old man's gaze turned serious. He waved his sleeves, catching the flying Bai Luo. His old eyes flickered with bewilderment as he stared at Bai Qi. Are you from the Jinlong continent? These words caused everyone present to be horrified. For him to say such words, it meant that the purple-robed man in front of them was a strong martial artist of the same level as the sloppy old man. Bai Qi laughed. I have no interest in a desolate place like the Jinlong continent. You can be at ease. The sloppy old man's gaze flickered, but he sat down again. I hope so. Bai Qi's power shocked everyone present. As for Su Yu, he was almost certain that the half-god, whose body was ridiculously strong, was the Ghost King. Thinking back to how he had been chased by the Ghost King, Su Yu could not help but feel fortunate. The Ghost King's abilities were more frightening than he had imagined. Inadvertently, Su Yu touched the cosmos mirror on his chest. There was a bloody arm lying quietly in it. Not using the arm of the Ghost King was the wisest decision. Su Yu thought to himself. Even though he had cooperated with the Ghost King, he was still extremely wary of him. How would he dare use the arm? If he could not guarantee that he could suppress the Ghost King, Su Yu would definitely not try to use the arm. Creak! A 14-inch long golden dragon suddenly appeared above Bai Qi's head. The dragon-shaped pattern beneath his feet, the sixth pattern that had not been activated for a long time, suddenly lit up. Even half of the seventh pattern had been activated. Bai Qi's battle alone had achieved such an effect. At that moment, a faint voice came from the plaza. The sixth-level space has opened. The mysterious heavenly battle has ended. The sudden voice stunned everyone present. How could it end? We haven't even started the competition yet. More than 50% of the people present hadn't even tried a battle. It was unexpected for it to end so suddenly. A glint flashed across the sloppy old man's eyes, and his face darkened. Humph! It was really fair. In a heavenly secret battle of the 9 provinces, everyone will have the opportunity to spar with everyone else, ensuring that the dragon-shaped pattern is activated to its fullest extent. However, the Jinlong continent forcefully stopped the competition when the 6th pattern was activated. They are afraid that the people of the Jinlong continent will occupy even more resources. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion seemed to have been affected by someone, causing both sides to be extremely unfair. Based on the current situation, they might even be able to activate the 7th dragon pattern. At this moment, a voice resounded from the plaza. Activating the 6 dragon marks will allow you to teleport to the 6th level of the divine pavilion. Now, confirm the battle situation of the 5 stone pillars. The first stone pillar, 20 inches. The ones who had accumulated the most golden royals were naturally the 7 lords of darkness. Bai Luo himself had 15 inches, while Lord Yu had 5 inches. The second stone pillar, 16 inches. This was the accumulation of the Heavenly Law Alliance. Long Wuxin had obtained 13 inches from 2 battles, and Long Fighting had obtained 3 inches from defeating Qin Yushan. The third stone pillar, 15 inches. Su Yu had obtained 15 inches alone. Qin Zhuyang had been defeated in 1 battle, and Su Yu had won 3 battles consecutively. The fourth stone pillar, 14 inches. Bai Qi had obtained 14 inches in 1 battle. The fifth stone pillar, 0. The 4 great ancient clans had only fought once, and they had been defeated. Naturally, their scores were 0. Since many of you have yet to fight, for the sake of fairness, you can fight each other for the golden royals in the next hour. The loser will have half of their golden royals taken by their opponent. After an hour, the person with the most golden royals will be determined, as well as the official ranking of the 5 stone pillars. At that moment, the expressions of the people on the 5 stone pillars changed. This meant that a chaotic battle would occur between the 5 stone pillars. More importantly, the plaza had not announced the rules. This meant that it did not matter even if they killed each other. The sloppy old man's eyes were filled with a cold smile, a shred of anger filling his face. Humph! The geniuses of Jiuzhou are humans, but the people of the Jinlong continent are worse than beasts. Everyone could see that this was an attempt to force the people of the Jinlong continent to kill each other. All of you listen up. You can fight for the golden royals, but you are not allowed to kill. If you go against this, don't blame me for being merciless." The sloppy old man let out a cold grunt. Suyu was secretly grateful. If not for his words, the entire place would have been dyed in blood. Hearing this, the expressions of the people on the 5 stone pillars changed. Who would dare ignore the warning of a fairy realm cultivator? "Begin." A voice came from the plaza. But the people in the plaza were strangely calm. No one made a move. The 4 great ancient clans did not have golden royals, so naturally, no one attacked them. Furthermore, their abilities were not enough to fight against any of the other 4 stone pillars. Hence, no one bothered with them, and they did not dare provoke anyone else. As for Bai Qi, who would not be afraid of his terrifying physical body, he was not interested in the fight. No one dared to attack him, and he could not be bothered with them. He sat down cross-legged, minding his own business. This action made everyone feel at ease. If Bai Qi wanted to fight for first place, not many people here would be able to withstand it. Now, only the Heavenly Law Alliance, the 7 Lords of Darkness, and Suyu were left. Long Wuxin's 13-inch golden dragon, Long Fighting's 3-inch golden dragon. Bai Luo was 15 inches, while Yu was 5 inches. Suyu was 15 inches tall. Of all the people present, only a few of them had golden dragons. Everyone looked at each other. Bai Luo's eyes flashed, and he suddenly attacked. His target was the Heavenly Law Alliance's Long Fighting. Among the group of people, it would be difficult for him to take down Suyu in a short period of time. Only Long Fighting was very confident. A space whirlpool appeared silently behind Long Fighting, and Bai Luo's palm attacked ferociously. Long Fighting was caught off guard, and his expression changed drastically. Long Wuxin, who was at the side, coldly snorted. She casually tapped her finger, and a virtual shadow flashed behind her back. Then a golden light shone brightly. Hundreds of divine weapons soared into the sky from the ancient box, and hundreds of divine weapons swept out. The space whirlpool that had condensed all of Bai Luo's space power suddenly shook violently. Bai Luo felt the pain and quickly retracted his hand. His face was filled with shock. The power of the ancient box was too frightening. Just 100 divine weapons had such power. How frightening would it be if 1,000 divine weapons were to be released at the same time? Even Bai Qi might not be able to withstand it. After all, Bai Qi had admitted defeat in front of this lady. This lady was, without a doubt, the strongest person present. Originally, I wanted to snatch the Black Snow Devil King's golden dragon and fight. But since you have attacked, I will reluctantly take your golden dragon. With a rumble, the ancient box released a golden light. This time, 200 divine weapons shot out. Bai Luo's expression turned serious. As he dodged in a hurry, he also used the space to dodge. But in front of this lady, Bai Luo could only defend himself. But while Long Wuxin was being restrained, the 7 Lords of Darkness attacked Long Fighting at the same time. Long Fighting let out a bitter laugh, instructing, "Siener, stand at the side and do not attack. This is not the time for you to attack. Conserve your spiritual energy." As he spoke, Long Fighting faced the combined attacks of 5 lords alone. The rest of the lords were easy to deal with. Even when facing Lord Qingzhu, he was not afraid. Only Lord Yu, who was ranked 7th, was frightening, causing him to be fearful. At once, Long Fighting was surrounded by the 5 of them, instantly at a disadvantage. Yu quickly weaved signs, looking as though she was about to unleash a big move to severely injure Long Fighting. Long Fighting complained incessantly. However, at this moment, 2 external incarnations flew over abruptly and swept the 5 great lords away in an instant. At the same time, a red-haired afterimage attacked. It was accompanied by an ice-long sword, pointing at Long Fighting's forehead. Long Fighting looked over, letting out a bitter laugh. I admit defeat. The person opposite him was Suyu. Having personally seen that Suyu's fighting abilities were no weaker than Bai Luo's, how could he be lucky? At once, the 3-inch golden dragon above his head shrank by a third. As for the golden dragon above Suyu's head, it grew from 15 inches to 16 inches. It was now the person with the highest golden dragon. After doing this, Suyu turned around and returned to the stone pillar without another word. Gang Dalei and Qin Zhuoyang stood on his left and right, protecting him in the middle. Brothers, thank you for your help. Suyu smiled in gratitude. Gang Dalei laughed. Why are you being so courteous? If you get one more golden dragon, we will be able to enter earlier and occupy a better spot. Qin Zhuoyang nodded his head, giving him a friendly smile. The two of them did not have a golden dragon. No matter how they fought, it would be difficult for them to enter the top 3. They might as well grant Suyu his wish and do him a favor. The 7 Lords of Darkness could not help but be stunned. They had been locked in a stalemate, but in the end, the Black Snow Devil King had taken advantage of them. He laughed in anger. Sir Black Snow, you really do not care about our past relationship. Her words caused the expressions of the other 4 lords to become strange. The impression that Lord Yu gave them was one of elegance and tranquility. To think that she would have such a coquettish attitude. As if sensing that she had lost her composure, Yu's face turned slightly red. Suyu laughed. Hee, if you care about our past relationship, why don't you give me the golden dragon as well and grant me my wish? Yu did not dare act rashly. Hee, I have long wanted to spar with Sir Black Snow. No, this person's fighting abilities are extremely strong. It is too risky for you to fight him alone. Qing Zhu's expression changed. Yu calmly said, if I do not fight him alone, the risk is even greater. The few lords swept their gazes past Qin Zhuoyang and Gang Dalei, who had yet to make a move, and their hearts trembled. If they were to attack, they would not be able to defend themselves. All right, Suyu nodded, agreeing. Chapter 453. Gang Dalei and Qin Zhuoyang looked at each other, then at Bai Luo, who was being suppressed by Long Wuxin. Their eyes glowed. The two of them quickly appeared beside Bai Luo. They were not there to attack him, but to fight Long Wuxin together. If Long Wuxin defeated Bai Luo and obtained half of his golden dragons, she would have a 20-inch golden dragon. With that, she would be the undisputed number 1 golden dragon. The number of golden dragons on the stone pillars they were on would also reach its peak. Long Wuxin was not angry. Instead, she let out a heroic laugh. Good. Only then can we have an enjoyable battle. With a creak, the ancient box on her back glowed with a golden light once again. On the other side, Suyu and Yu had agreed to fight one-on-one. The two of them looked at each other, then attacked at the same time. As usual, Yu's speed of forming hand seals was divine, and she used many techniques at the same time. 10 different water-based attacks merged into one, close to an attack from a half-god. Suyu let out a smile. Good. He opened his mouth and spat out a firebird formed by the origin of fire, flying toward Yu. The firebird was extremely hot. The water vapor contained in the water-based technique dissipated in an instant. Yu did not panic. The 10 techniques were just a stall for time. She was preparing more techniques. But Suyu let out a light laugh. Yu's expression changed. A fountain appeared beneath her feet, instantly sending her high into the sky to avoid the attack from below. Just as she was about to leave, the entire fountain turned into sparkling icicles with a flash of cold energy. At the same time, the icicles shattered, turning into countless ice shards that attacked Yu, who was just inches away. Yu seemed to have sensed it. She flew away from the fountain in advance, floating in the air. Whoosh! However, at this moment, the shattered pieces of ice suddenly condensed into a long arrow and shot towards his body. Yu was caught off guard. She could only give up on her attack and form new seals. Her body glowed with a watery light. When the ice arrow pierced through her, she turned into a ball of water, dripping down. Her real body suddenly appeared 1,000 feet away, her face pale. Obviously, this life-saving substitution technique consumed a lot of spiritual energy. However, before Yu's body could materialize, Suyu seemed to have predicted her trajectory. He formed an ice ball between his palms and shot it toward Yu, who was about to materialize. Yu's expression changed again. With a flash of water around her, she disappeared once again. However, when he reappeared, he was already back on the stone pillar. There's no need to fight. I am no match for you. Yu looked at Su Yu from afar, as if she was unwilling to admit defeat. She had thought that after becoming a heaven master, she might be able to fight the Black Snow Devil King. He did not expect the other party to be so monstrous, using an ice path divine ability to force him to the point where he did not even have time to form hand seals. You win, Humph. Yu wrinkled her nose and softly snorted. The 5-inch golden dragon above his head shrank by 2/5. Su Yu's 16-inch golden dragon grew to 18 inches. After the battle ended, Su Yu looked toward the battlefield where Gang Dalei was and could not help but be shocked. The three of them had joined hands, but they were still being suppressed by Long Wuxin alone. They could only forcefully hold on and did not have the slightest bit of strength left to counterattack. Their bodies were more or less riddled with injuries, and they had expended a lot of energy. Their expressions were a little pale. On the other hand, Long Wuxin had suppressed 3 half-gods with her own strength. She was calm and composed, and her aura was magnificent. This woman's strength had exceeded everyone's expectations. Ha, this is interesting. I have not fought like this in a long time. Long Wuxin's icy arrogance was gone, her entire body filled with battle intent. So he was secretly shocked. Even if this woman's battle abilities were not as strong as the Ghost King's, they were not far off. Her abilities should belong to the ranks of top-notch half-gods. An hour has passed. The duel has ended. A voice came from the plaza. The group of people stopped fighting. Qin Jiang bitterly shook out his messy clothes, and Gang Dalei's mouth was filled with bad luck. But when his gaze swept past Gang Dalei, Su Yu realized that the divine light on the surface of Gang Dalei's body was still extremely condensed. His soul eyes cannot see through it. This meant that he still had some strength left. Su Yu was even more curious about Gang Dalei's true appearance. After knowing him for so long, he had never revealed his true appearance. First Stone Pillar, 18-inch golden dragon. This was naturally Su Yu's group, tied for first Stone Pillar, 18-inch golden dragon. Lord Yu had been robbed of 2 inches. Hence, their stone pillar was tied with Su Yu's stone pillar. Third Stone Pillar, 15-inch golden dragon. Long fighting of the Heavenly Law Alliance had been robbed of an inch golden dragon. Fourth Stone Pillar, 14-inch golden dragon. Fifth Stone Pillar, 0. Su Yu's stone pillar had the greatest change in ranking. He had risen from 3rd to 1st place. Individual results. 1st place, Su Yu, 18-inch golden dragon. 2nd place by Luo, 15-inch golden dragon. 3rd place by Qi, 14-inch golden dragon. After his speech, 3 balls of light appeared from the pattern, shooting toward each of the 3 people. Su Yu raised his hand and grabbed. The balls of light dissipated, revealing 2 divine artifacts. One was a dagger that was completely golden in color. It glowed and released an unusual spiritual pressure. Su Yu had a surprised expression, his face filled with joy. It was a top-notch middle-grade divine artifact. Looking at Bai Qi and Bai Luo, they both had normal middle-grade divine artifacts. Even though Bai Luo, who was in 2nd place, had 2 normal middle-grade divine artifacts did not mean much to half-gods. Sensing that the divine artifact in Su Yu's hands was top-notch, Bai Luo's expression turned gloomy. It was fine if it was a top-notch middle-grade divine artifact. What was more important was that it was a divine artifact that had not been refined. The number of divine artifacts that had not been refined in the Jinlong continent could be counted on one's fingers. A divine artifact that was suitable for oneself that had not been refined required a great amount of luck. With Bai Luo's status, that set of steel needles had also been refined. Su Yu had a joyous expression. Strictly speaking, this golden dagger was his first divine artifact. The rest were either being refined or in the process of being refined. Without hesitation, Su Yu dripped a drop of blood into the dagger, refining the golden dagger on the spot. As the blood entered the dagger, Su Yu and the golden dagger formed an invisible connection. An unfamiliar and cold message flashed into his mind. Golden scale dagger, made from the golden scale, Oregon. It can cut through metal like mud. It is famous for its sharpness. After successfully refining it, It can cut through anything below the level of a spiritual artifact. Su Yu had a thought. He tried using the tip of the dagger to poke the black armor on his body. At that moment, what shocked Su Yu was that a small white that had appeared on the black armor. The quality of this item was equivalent to a half-manufactured spiritual artifact. It had actually left a mark on it. It was not a lie to say that it could cut through all divine artifacts below the level of a spiritual artifact. But the golden scale dagger was an unexpected gain. What Su Yu was most excited about was the other item, heavenly flower liquid. It could cleanse the seal of all divine artifacts below the level of a spiritual artifact. What moved Su Yu the most was that the heavenly flower liquid was as thick as an arm. It could cleanse more than one divine artifact. Su Yu was extremely excited. The sloppy old man had casually glanced at it. But when he saw the jade bottle in Su Yu's palm, his pupils turned serious. This is a jade bottle made from the heavenly flower jade? After confirming it, the sloppy old man could not help but laugh. That makes sense. It is ridiculous for the champion to only get a bottle of heavenly flower liquid. So the true reward is the heavenly flower bottle. This lad's luck is extraordinary. If he had mentioned the heavenly flower bottle earlier, Long Wuxin would not have been so casual. Even if she had used all her abilities, she would have gotten first place. As for that ghost, it's likely that it won't stand idly by. When Bai Chi's gaze swept past the jade bottle in Su Yu's palm, his dark red eyes flashed. The heavenly flower bottle. Is this the true reward? A shred of regret appeared on his face. If I had known that this was the true reward, I would have made my move earlier. But then Bai Chi let out a cold laugh. But it does not matter. It looks like this lad has not discovered the existence of the heavenly flower bottle. It is not too late to obtain it later. You will all have half a day to recuperate. During this time, you will be sent to the 6th level of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion based on your ranking on the stone pillars. Whoosh, whoosh, multiple rays of light enveloped everyone present. The light had a strong defensive ability and isolated them from the outside world, ensuring that no one would disturb them while they were recuperating. So you could not have asked for more. After making use of the time to recover his spirit energy and stamina, he took out the heavenly flower bottle, his eyes filled with excitement. He had many treasures in his hands, which he continued to cleanse and refine. The first to bear the brunt of the attack was the black armor. They were about to enter the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, which was filled with danger. Protecting oneself was the top priority. With a thought, Su Yu poured in a drop of heavenly flower liquid. At that moment, the entire black armor let out a crackling sound. Shreds of black blood essence seeped out. Black blood? Could this be the armor of the Ghost King? Su Yu was shocked. Thinking back to the armor he had just used in front of the Ghost King, he could not help but be cautious. After thinking for some time, Su Yu took out a small jade bottle and kept the Ghost King's blood essence. The Ghost King, who was recuperating on the stone pillar, opened its eyes and let out a grunt. Its eyes were filled with anger. Good. Very good. You dare to refine my item. Su Yu, who had no idea what was happening, muttered to himself for a moment before deciding to continue refining it. A drop of heavenly flower liquid was far from enough to cleanse this item. Without hesitation, Su Yu poured in another drop. Just like that, another shred of the Ghost King's blood essence seeped out, which Su Yu kept. This happened 5 times in a row. Half of the heavenly flower liquid was used before it was finally cleansed. Su Yu had successfully collected an entire drop of the Ghost King's blood essence. Looking at the little remaining heavenly flower liquid, Su Yu felt his heart ache. He quickly poured in his own blood essence, refining it with a little bit of effort. At that moment, a message appeared in his mind. Eternal Stone King Armor, a high-grade spiritual artifact. It was refined from the bones of a strong divine master. It is indestructible and can defend against the attacks of any fairy realm below the divine master level. Hearing this, Su Yu's heart thumped wildly. Divine master? What realm was that? Was there an even stronger realm above the fairy realm? Breaking through to the fairy realm meant that one was a godlike existence in the Jinlong continent. What realm was the divine master? Chapter 454. So you had already experienced the difference between a low-grade divine artifact, a middle-grade divine artifact, and a high-grade divine artifact. The difference between the grades of spirit artifacts was even more shocking. The grade of this Eternal Stone King armor was extremely high and extremely terrifying. Even in the 9 states, it would not be an ordinary treasure. His heart was burning with passion. He had really obtained an incredible treasure. As he thought about the loss of the heavenly flower liquid, Suyu felt more at ease. However, this spiritual tool had lost its spiritual nature and was damaged again. It had already fallen to the level of a semi-manufactured spiritual tool. It was impossible for the current Suyu to repair it. Even so, to Suyu, it was still a rare treasure. After refining it, Suyu could use his consciousness to control the core of the armor, the vital energy crystal. The crystals formed by the condensation of vital energy contained an enormous amount of vital energy. They were extremely important items in the 9 states. As for the Eternal Stone King armor, its defensive power was astonishing. However, if one could activate the vital energy within the vital energy crystal, they would be able to display an even greater defensive power. After Suyu had refined it, he could freely control the release of the vital energy crystal, unlike before, where he had to release it passively after being attacked. Suppressing his excitement, Suyu stored it away. After thinking for some time, Suyu considered whether he should wash away the blood essence left behind by the sloppy old man on the Cosmos Thundersword. However, this thought flashed past in a flash. This action would undoubtedly offend the sloppy old man. They had yet to fulfill their agreement, so it would be too impatient to remove the blood essence in such a hurry. With a flash of his eyes, Suyu took out the ghost-suppressing golden ring. Suyu took out a drop of heavenly flower liquid without hesitation. As the heavenly flower liquid seeped into his body, there was a layer of golden blood that exuded a dense Buddhist nature. This item only required 1 drop of heavenly flower liquid. Could this be the essence blood of that soul body? Suyu clicked his tongue in wonder as he kept the drop of golden Buddha essence blood. After that, Suyu refined it without hesitation. Ghost-suppressing golden ring, a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. It has a strong suppressive effect on ghosts of the fairy realm. Its might depends on its owner's cultivation level. Semi-manufactured spiritual artifact, an item of the same grade as the Cosmos Thundersword. Suyu was overjoyed. With his bracelet in hand, he would undoubtedly be much safer if he encountered evil ghosts. He glanced at the heavenly flower liquid and saw that there were only 2 drops left. Suyu thought for a moment, then took out his silver bow and a set of flying needles. The effect of the heavenly flower liquid was more than 10 times stronger than the 10,000 soldier spiritual liquid. A single drop could wash away a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. It was extremely wasteful to use it to clean a silver bow that was already 80% refined. Furthermore, the remaining 2 drops were just enough to completely refine the entire set of steel needles. If he took out a drop to refine the silver bow, he would only be able to refine half of the needles. Suyu pondered this for a while. Based on what he knew, a complete set of divine artifacts could only be used as a complete set in order to unleash its full power. Only using a portion of it would greatly reduce its power. After thinking about it, Suyu had no choice but to keep the silver bow and clean the 9 steel needles. A moment later, Zhang Xian was done cleaning it and successfully refined it. The 9 yin-yang needles were born from the 9 suns Cosmos Sword formation. Combined with the 9 yin-yang secret technique, it can unleash the power of a high-grade divine artifact, which is comparable to a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. If a cultivator is able to obtain the materials and upgrade the 9 yin-yang needles grade, theoretically, it can reach the level of a semi-manufactured spirit artifact. There is even a chance that it can reach the level of a spirit artifact. Hearing this, Suyu's heart thumped with excitement. Able to unleash the power of a high-grade divine artifact? Moreover, within this set of divine artifacts, there was a secret technique to control it that no one knew about. Suyu felt that his choice just now was wise. Without thinking, he immediately seized the time to cultivate the 9-yin-yang secret technique. The main point of this secret technique was perception, how to distribute the spirit energy evenly among the 9 steel needles. Achieving a state of balance was the key to the success of the cultivation. The secret technique specifically mentioned one point: those with a strong soul would have a better cultivation effect. The reason was that people with a strong soul would have a stronger perception than ordinary people, allowing them to balance the spirit energy better. Suyu's soul, after cultivating the heaven's sun gazing at air technique, had long surpassed those of the same cultivation level. Compared to a half-god, he was not at a disadvantage. If not for the fact that he was stuck at stage 1 top class of the heaven's sun gazing at air technique, unable to break through to stage 2, he might have reached the level of the fairy realm by now. With such a strong soul, cultivating the 9-yin-yang needle technique would naturally be a matter of course. In less than 6 hours, he had successfully cultivated it. Rise! So he let out a low grunt. The 9 steel needles vibrated with a buzzing sound, then connected one by one, revolving around Suyu's head. Quick! With a command, all the steel needles turned into streaks of broken threads, dancing in the air, crisscrossing each other. If a normal half-god was not on guard, it would not be surprising if the 9 needles pierced through his body and killed him on the spot. This was definitely a rare set of divine artifacts. Keeping it, Suyu still wished to continue. This bottle of heavenly flower liquid was of great help to him, allowing his abilities to increase greatly. Buzz, the screen of light vibrated, then split open. Within the plaza, a voice that made everyone's hearts tighten reverberated. Mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. The transportation begins now. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion that only appeared once every 10,000 years. An unprecedented opportunity for the Jinlong continent. The only chance for the martial artists of the Jinlong continent to break through to the fairy realm was right in front of them. The stone pillars that Suyu and the 7 Lords of Darkness were on released brilliant silver light at the same time, enveloping the people above them, following which the entire space shook violently. The stone pillars shot out a silver beam of light, entering the top of the plaza. The top of the wall was filled with stars. At that moment, under the silver light, it looked like a vast galaxy, vast and majestic. As the silver light entered, a ripple-like ripple appeared, enveloping the silver light. On the plaza, Suyu and the others, along with the stone pillars, had all disappeared. An hour later, it was the people of the Heavenly Law Alliance's turn. They were followed by Bai Qi. The sloppy old man looked at Bai Qi, a sliver of worry in his eyes. His eyes flickered for a moment before he finally gave up. Forget it. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion is vast. The chances of him meeting the geniuses of Jojo are far greater than Daily Eye and the rest. You guys are the last. Your abilities are limited. Stay at the 6th level and do not go too far. The sloppy old man casually reminded the remaining 4 great ancient clans. The group nodded hurriedly. There were 4 of them, each representing the strongest fighters of their respective clans. There were 3 men and 1 woman. Apart from Shijie, there were 2 men and 1 woman who had not fought yet. Ming Fei, hold on tight. Shijie looked at the woman beside him. It was the woman from a Ming clan. She had a graceful figure and an extraordinary appearance. She and Shijie had an engagement that outsiders did not know about. The woman called Ming Fei nodded shyly, grabbing onto Shijie's sleeves as she shyly lay in his embrace. At that moment, the stone pillar was activated and the silver light gradually flickered. The sloppy old man glanced at the 4 of them. Suddenly, his gaze fixed on Ming Fei, and his pupils shrank. Under the silver light, a layer of black appeared on Ming Fei's body involuntarily. Under normal circumstances, there would not be any abnormalities. Only the silver light here was special, and it brought out the layer of black that was hard to detect. Heavenly Ghost! The sloppy old man's expression suddenly changed. He slammed the table and stood up. His figure leaped 1,000 feet, and he grabbed Ming Fei. Ming Fei's bashful expression instantly disappeared and was replaced by a cold smile. Old man, it's too late to realize it now. Puss, the silver light screen easily blocked the sloppy old man outside the light screen. Good. I was careless. I actually let you sneak into the 4 great ancient clans without me noticing. The sloppy old man's gaze was cold, and he secretly blamed himself. Whoosh! A black light flashed on Ming Fei's body, and a thick layer of ghost energy appeared on her face. Shang Ji's petite face could be vaguely seen. Hee, you did not expect this, did you? I used the secret technique of the heavenly ghost to possess this woman's body. In order to hide it from you, I had such a good opportunity to kill that kid called Black Snow Devil King, but I endured it. However, he is not far from death. Wait until I enter the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. If I meet him, I will definitely tear him apart. Thinking back on what had happened that day, she was actually deceived by a small junior of the immortal realm. After her speech, the silver light beam flashed, sending them into the star. The sloppy old man's expression darkened, and he was full of worry. A mysterious ghost is already dangerous enough. With another heavenly ghost, it is hard to predict how dangerous this trip of Daily Eye and the rest will be. After thinking for a long time, the sloppy old man let out a long sigh. I hope that they can quickly increase their abilities. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion has a very strong sense. If they use the cultivation of the fairy realm, they will definitely be transported out. If they are suppressed to the half-god realm, they might still be able to escape. Long Jueshin's expression also darkened. It's that heavenly ghost. Oh no, they might be in danger. At that moment, everyone in the plaza was filled with worry. The sloppy old man looked around, then waved his hand and said, "Just wait patiently. They will return in 2 years." 2 years? If not for the seniors personally participating, it would be hard to believe that the flow of time in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion is 10 times slower than in the Zhenlong continent. Long Jueshin exclaimed. According to the experiences of those who had entered before, they had only stayed in there for 2 months. However, when they returned, they realized that 2 years had already passed in the Zhenlong continent. The sloppy old man let out a weird laugh. What's so strange about that? This is only the flow of time in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. The flow of time in the world of Jiuzhou is 100 times slower than in the Zhenlong continent. 10,000 years have passed in the Zhenlong continent, but in reality, only 100 years have passed in the Jiuzhou continent. What? 100 times the flow of time? Everyone present could not help but click their tongues. The sloppy old man pointed at the statues of the strong martial artists of the past. In the eyes of Jiuzhou, the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion that appeared 100 years ago actually appears once every year. After 100 years, there are exactly 100 statues. And 10,000 years ago, the people of the Zhenlong continent were attracted by the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion for the first time. In the eyes of Jiuzhou, that was 100 years ago when the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion had just appeared. From this, it is not difficult to see the difference in the flow of time between the world of the Zhenlong continent and the world of Jiuzhou. A difference of 100 years is not something incomprehensible. Hearing this, everyone was speechless, filled with curiosity about the world of Jiuzhou. What kind of world was that? Speaking of Suyu, as the world spun around him, a shockingly dense spiritual energy suddenly assaulted him. Chapter 455. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. He was at the peak of a hill, and his field of vision was wide. Looking into the distance, he could see countless spirit herbs growing between the hills. Most of them were rare divine herbs that Suyu could not name. There were also many that did not exist in the Zhenlong continent. It's the thousand-knife leaf. Qin Yushan suddenly screamed, his breathing rapid. His figure flickered as he ran down the hill, excitedly grabbing an orange-yellow blade of grass growing at the foot of the hill. There are more here. Qin Yushan cried out in shock, suddenly realizing that there was a patch of thousand-knife leaf growing nearby. Qin Ziyang gasped. Unbelievable! The thousand knife leaf is a rare ingredient in the Jinlong continent for making high-level elixirs. One can be exchanged for a complete immortal-level technique. There is actually a patch of it here. Unbelievable! Even though he did not go down a fight for it due to his status, he could still feel the shock in his heart. Su Yu's gaze landed on a puddle not far away, involuntarily crying out, "Divine dragon grass!" Back at the ancient Xianyan temple, Su Yu had risked his life to fight a powerful demonic beast to obtain a divine dragon grass. But in the puddle in front of him, there were dozens of them growing. Such rich resources shocked Su Yu to the point of speechlessness. Gang Dalei was equally shocked. With a flash, he went down and quickly picked up a few rare spirit herbs in the Jinlong continent. The world in front of them struck the nerves of the four of them. The spirit herbs growing in a 10-mile radius were something that the entire Jinlong continent could not compare to. Where did these country bumpkins come from? They are happily picking weeds. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the sky. The expressions of the four of them changed, hurriedly lifting their heads to look. There were 3 strong fighters floating in the air, looking at the four of them strangely. All 3 of them were at the demigod realm. The one who spoke was a young man in a yellow shirt. He was about 17 years old, and there was a hint of fierceness about him. Clearly, he was not an ordinary demigod powerhouse. Looking at the other 2, they were about 18 or 19 years old. They were a man and a woman. "Where did you come from? I don't remember seeing you at the mysterious, heavenly platform." The young woman was dressed in palace attire, and her attire was bright and beautiful. At this moment, she frowned and shouted. Su Yu and the other 3's hearts thumped. "This is bad. We'll run into people from Jiuzhou as soon as we appear." Not only were their cultivations exceptional, but most importantly, they were all abnormally young. Compared to them, other than Su Yu, who was only 17 years old, the rest of them were all above 20 years old. Even the oldest, Qin Jiuyang, was close to 25 years old. He could barely squeeze into the 25 years old age requirement of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Seeing that the 4 of them were not saying anything, the yellow-robed youth frowned. "Are you deaf? Say something." On the other hand, the white-clothed 18-year-old youth looked into the distance with some doubt. "Junior brother Yang Jian, the evil Ghost Valley is about to open. We do not have time to waste. If we are late, I'm afraid that senior sister Yu Chan will make things difficult for us. We should quickly set off." As for them, they've barely reached the half-god realm at such an old age. Their aptitude is so poor that they're definitely not from the blessed and heavenly lands. They're most likely rogue cultivators who snuck in. We don't have to bother with them. The youth called Yang Jian let out a grunt, sweeping his gaze across the 4 of them. "Behave yourself." With a grunt, the 3 of them cut through the sky, heading toward the horizon. The 4 of them heaved a sigh of relief after the 3 of them left. "Brother Jiuyang, if you had attacked just now, what are your chances of winning?" Gang Dalei looked at the back of the 3 disappearing figures and could not help but ask. Qin Jiuyang creased his brows as he pondered. "If I had fought against the other 2, I would have had a 60% chance of winning. If I had fought against the yellow-robed youth, I would most likely have lost. But if the yellow-robed youth fought against Brother Dalei and Brother Black Snow, he would most likely have a grudge." He thought highly of Su Yu. "Brother Qin, you flatter me." Su Yu cupped his fists, saying seriously, "Brother Dalei, what do you mean by this? Could it be that the place we are heading to is the evil Ghost Valley?" He had promised the sloppy old man to enter the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion and help him retrieve an item, but the sloppy old man had not said anything. Gang Dalei shrugged his shoulders helplessly. "If only it were so fast. The place we are heading to is at the 7th level. To get to the 7th level, we would need a transportation spell. Unfortunately, the nearest transportation spell is in the evil Ghost Valley. If we take a detour to another transportation spell, we would need at least half a month." In other words, they needed to enter the evil Ghost Valley and use the transportation spell. "Can't we wait for them to leave before entering? It is not that I am afraid of a battle, but I wish to avoid unnecessary battles to prevent exhaustion. If we were to meet enemies again, it would be extremely dangerous, Qin Zhuyang said. Gang Dalei shook his head. That won't do. Every time the transportation spell is used, it would need half a month to recover its energy. We can only use the transportation spell before these people do. Is that so? Gang Dalei and the other two were silent, clearly weighing the pros and cons. Do we still need to consider? Of course, we cannot give up the transportation spell. Su Yu's eyes glowed. The resources in this place were too abundant, and they were extremely beneficial to his training. He had to complete his promise as soon as possible, then concentrate on his training. If he spent too much time on this mission, it would not be worth it. Qin Zhuyang thought for a moment, having the same thought as Su Yu. I agree, but Qin Yushan. Qin Zhuyang turned his head. You can stay at the 6th level. This place is rich in resources. Take as much as you can. There is no need to risk your life with us. Even though Qin Yushan was unwilling, he knew that they were going to carry out an extremely dangerous mission. Bringing him along would be a burden, so he agreed. After all, the resources in this place were endless to him. There was no need for him to risk his life with them. You must keep a low profile, Qin Zhuyang said. Remember to hide yourself. That way, you will be able to survive these 2 days safely. After saying this, he looked toward Gang Dalei. Gang Dalei laughed heartily. Since you are not afraid, why should I be? With the 3 of us working together, suppressing the 3 of them should not be a problem. The problem is that the other party seems to have a companion named Yuchan waiting for them. We do not know how strong or weak this person is, so we need to be careful. Hearing this, the group nodded, immediately heading toward the evil Ghost Valley. Along the way, there were spiritual objects everywhere, making them extremely excited. In fact, Su Yu had even discovered a spiritual herb that was about to evolve into a divine herb. A divine herb was equivalent to a legendary level cultivation technique. But they were in a hurry, and Su Yu could only bear with the pain and give up. Su Yu was even more determined to complete the mission as soon as possible. If the 6th level of the Divine Pavilion was already so rich in resources, how shocking would the 7th, 8th, and even the 9th level be? Half a day later, a valley filled with ghost chi and black smoke was faintly discernible. Su Yu and the group descended from the sky, carefully approaching the evil Ghost Valley. From 10 miles away, Su Yu used his soul eyes. After looking, he said quietly, "Those 3 people are still at the entrance of the valley, as if they are waiting for someone. If we want to snatch the transportation spell, we can only do so now." Gang Dalei was surprised by Su Yu's probing ability, but he did not suspect anything. That companion, named Yuchan, might not be around for the time being. This is indeed the best time for us to strike. The 3 of them looked at each other, then streaked across the sky together, flying over. Brother Dalei, Brother Black Snow, there is no need to fight them head on. Protect me. I have my own ways of preventing them from stopping us. After saying this, Qin Zhuyang took out 3 strands of hair from his head, wrapping them around his little finger. Curse technique. Su Yu and Gang Dalei nodded in response, protecting him from the left and right. Whoosh! The 3 of them closed in quickly. Unable to hide their auras, they were immediately discovered by the 3 people at the entrance of the valley. It's those 3 wandering martial artists? The yellow-robed youth, Yang Jian, could not help but laugh angrily. Reckless fools. Just now, I was merciful and did not take their lives. Now they actually dare to come over and snatch the transportation spell. The woman in the palace gown had a vicious look on her face. Humph! Give them an inch, and they want a foot. I've already warned them to stay put, but they still dare to chase after us. Junior Yang Jian, you do not need to attack. Senior Bai and I will attack together and get rid of those 3 small fries. Yang Jian's expression was cold as he nodded. Yes, be careful. Even though they are useless wandering martial artists, they're not normal wandering martial artists to be able to think of a way to enter the mysterious, heavenly, divine pavilion. Do not be careless. His actions were meant to train the 2 of them. Junior Yi, which one do you choose? The white-robed youth, Senior Bai, coldly looked at the 3 chasing them. The woman in the palace gown, Junior Yi, swept her gaze past them, landing on Qin Zhuyang. Humph, leave this one to me. He looks handsome, but his talent is poor. He is only a half-god at the age of 25. How dare he come to the mysterious, heavenly divine pavilion with such talent? Senior Bai took out a semicircular weapon. The edges were extremely sharp. It was a middle-grade divine artifact that had been completely refined. Leave that glowing figure to me. The two of them charged into the sky, charging forward. They're here. Qin Zhuyang's gaze turned serious, his mouth chanting an incantation. Shreds of uncomfortable feelings surged into their hearts, causing Su Yu and the rest of them to feel uncomfortable. The 3 strands of hair on Qin Zhuyang's pinky gradually became transparent, then turned into nothingness. A strand of hair had appeared on the pinky fingers of the 3 opponents. The first to notice it was Yang Jian. His gaze turned serious, and he shouted, "Be careful. It's a curse." As he spoke, the strand of hair on his pinky finger was shaken off, but it still left behind a faint black mark. Junior Yi and Senior Bai were in a similar situation. Qin Zhuyang let out a smile. It's done. He weaved an obscure seal with both of his hands, extending 2 fingers from each hand to cover his left and right eyes. He then shouted, "They can no longer see us now. You too quick." By covering his eyes, the 3 opponents were affected by the curse, temporarily losing their sight. As expected, Junior Yi and Senior Bai, who were flying over, revealed expressions of panic. Senior Bai quickly said, "Junior Yi, be careful. Use your spirit energy to protect your body immediately. Do not act recklessly." So you wanted to kill the 2 of them, but the opponents had reinforcements, and it was not wise to get entangled with them. Easily passing the 2 of them, he and Gang Dalei supported Qin Zhuyang, who was casting the technique as they charged toward the valley. Yang Jian's expression was sullen. Hearing the commotion, his killing intent increased. "Even if I cannot see, it is more than enough to kill all of you. Rise." With a low shout, a clanging sound came from behind him, and a crystal sword flashing with a cold light shot into the sky. Chapter 456. That ghost is so powerful that even if the 4 of us join forces with Senior Yuchan, we might not be able to defeat it. Only the outer sanctum disciples of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands might have a chance. The 3 of them are really seeking their own deaths. Junior Yi sneered. The 3 of them did not continue their pursuit. After waiting for a while, a short-haired woman in a green dress flew over, carrying a golden tree as thick as an arm. Senior Yuchan. The 3 of them changed their expressions and went forward to welcome her respectfully. Even the cold and arrogant Yang Jian revealed an extremely respectful expression. Yuchan wore a green dress and had short hair. She was clearly a woman, but her facial features were sharp, making her look very capable. Her eyes were also very sharp, and she noticed the 3 of them with one look. What happened? Yang Jian's face was filled with shame. Senior Sister Yuchan, there are 3 rogue cultivators who used unorthodox methods like incantations to sneak into the evil Spirit Valley. Sneak in? Humph! It was the 3 of you who could not stop them. Yuchan's expression turned cold. The 3 of them shuddered, but did not retort. Senior Sister, even though they successfully entered, we do not have to worry. With their cultivation levels, they are merely nourishing the Ghost King. At most, they can use up 10 to 20% of the Ghost King's power. We can take advantage of it and lower the risk. Why not? Yang Jian defended himself. Hearing this, Yuchan's gaze turned cold, and she berated, "Shut up. You are weaker than them, yet you still have the face to shirk responsibility?" Yuchan was exceptionally strict. It is because of your complacent attitude that the 3 of them had the opportunity to take advantage of. The 3 of them shuddered, lowering their heads. They were ashamed and humiliated. That was indeed the case. If not for the fact that they looked down on Su Yu and his group, they might not have succeeded so easily. Chase after them immediately. Even though they are wandering cultivators, they might not have any techniques to lure the ghost away. If the transportation is delayed, the 3 of us will lose some of the resources of the 7th level of the Divine Pavilion. More importantly, we will ruin senior brother Yi Dao's plans. He is a true outer sanctum disciple. If we ruin his plans, do you still want to survive in the blessed and heavenly lands? Hearing the words, senior brother Yi Dao, the three of them had ugly expressions. They could faintly see the fear in each other's eyes. We know we were wrong, senior sister. The three of them had completely lost their temper and hurriedly chased after her. On the other side, where the four ancient clans were located, at the peak of an incomparably huge mountain range, there were corpses lying all around. They were dressed differently, and none of them were from the Jinlong continent. However, their cultivations were all half-gods. Among them, there was no lack of powerful half-gods that were comparable to Bai Luo. In the middle of the corpses, there was a delicate and pretty girl. Her entire body flickered with black light, and Shang Ji's illusory figure could be faintly seen. The woman's delicate face revealed a deep, cold smile. You lot, follow me well. You will benefit from this. I can also return this woman's body to you at any time. From now on, all of you must listen to my orders. Otherwise, everyone, including Shi Jie, bowed respectfully. Let's go. The pretty woman took a step forward. In front of her was a teleportation array. In another place, on a lake, Bai Luo was leading the 7 Lords of Darkness. Luckily, the teleportation array here is very well hidden. Even the people from the Jinlong continent do not know about it. Bai Luo glanced at the teleportation array hidden deep under the lake and heaved a sigh of relief. The pocket on Qing Zhu's waist was bulging, and there were a few spiritual herbs that were emitting strong spirituality in his robes. His face was filled with joy. It was obvious that he had gained a lot from the 6th level of the Divine Pavilion. Bai Luo, we are going to the 7th level of the pavilion. Can we stop for a while? The resources there must be extremely shocking. If the 6th level was already like this, then the 7th level would probably be even more precious. Bai Luo calmly looked at the silent EU and said calmly, let's head to the 8th level of the Divine Pavilion and complete the king's orders first. After setting up the sacrificial array, all of you can move on your own. With that, the group of them entered the water and teleported away. There was an ancient tree that had been chopped off a long time ago. Its diameter was extremely huge, and it was 30 feet wide. There was an extremely complicated pattern carved on it. On both sides of the teleportation array, there were 2 groups of people facing each other. One of them was none other than the lone Bai Qi. As for the other side of the teleportation array, it was Long Wuxin and Qin Xiener. As for Long Fighting, he was nowhere to be seen. He was most likely left behind in the 6th level, just like Qin Yushan. Little girl, if we continue facing each other like this, neither of us will be able to do anything to the other. There is no enmity between us. Since we have entered the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion for different purposes, why don't we use the teleportation array together? This way, no one will be at a disadvantage. Otherwise, if one of us uses it first, the other will have to wait for half a month. Hearing this, Long Wuxin, who had an ancient box flickering behind her back, nodded coldly. Sure. However, I advise you not to think of anything funny. As the strongest genius of the mysterious heavenly battle, her words were extremely threatening. Naturally, Bai Qi snickered. The 2 groups of people entered the teleportation array and were teleported safely. In a certain place in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, an extremely cute little girl, who was only 15 years old, was sitting cross-legged. In front of her, a compass was spinning, and the compass was spinning quickly. The compass seemed to be extremely difficult to control, and the little girl's face was slightly pale. Suddenly, the compass stopped and shot in a certain direction. The little girl let out a surprised expression. I found it. I sensed the aura of that heavenly ghost. It is at the 7th level of the pavilion. This means that the person Master Tianxian is looking for is also at the 7th level of the divine pavilion. After saying this, the little girl's figure flickered, leaving behind an afterimage as she disappeared into thin air. In the evil ghost valley, the area was filled with ghost energy, and Su Yu and his group did not advance quickly. This was after Su Yu had used his soul eyes to avoid the ferocious creatures hidden within the ghost fog. Otherwise, their progress would have been even slower. The tunnel ahead is extremely narrow, and there are many bats on the stone walls, all of them at the level of Heaven Master. There are about 100 of them, and we cannot take a detour. I'm afraid we can only fight them head-on. So you observed for a moment, creasing his brows. Qin Zhuiyang had a worried expression. We cannot delay for too long. I'm afraid the people behind us are about to catch up. Suddenly, Gang Dalei laughed. Leave this place to me. The two of you do not need to attack. Just follow behind me. Hearing this, Su Yu was slightly shocked. Even though 100 bats were not very dangerous, it would not be easy to deal with them quickly. Hee. Gang Dalei only laughed without saying a word, letting out a low grunt as he placed his palms in front of his chest. Crackle, crackle, a sound that Su Yu was extremely familiar with entered his ears. Between Gang Dalei's palms, shreds of light shone, illuminating the dark valley. At the same time, the ghost fog seemed to have met its nemesis, retreating continuously. Su Yu was secretly shocked. This was lightning. Previously, when Gang Dalei attacked, he had not used any lightning-based techniques. So he was extremely shocked. After knowing Gang Dalei for so long, this was the first time he had learned that Gang Dalei actually cultivated lightning-based techniques. I do not have the ability to divert my attention to cultivating lightning-based techniques. This is a treasure of the old man, and it contains lightning-based techniques. He lent it to me for use. The lightning in Gang Dalei's palms gradually merged into a ball of lightning the size of an eyeball. This lightning was different from the lightning that was normally cultivated. Its spirit energy was very strong. The small ball of lightning was spinning as if it was alive. Go! Gang Dalei tossed it into the air. At once, the ball of lightning turned into bolts of lightning, weaving into a giant net that enveloped the three of them. All right, let's set off quickly. Under the cover of the electric net, the three of them traveled quickly through the narrow tunnel. When the bats sensed the aura of the humans, they were like hungry wolves that had smelled blood. They turned into dark clouds, pressing toward the three of them. Creak! But when they came into contact with the electric net, they turned into smoke on the spot. Even so, the bats were agitated, charging toward the electric net like moths to a flame. As a result, the electric net above his head also emitted crackling sounds, flickering and flickering, actually showing signs of being forcefully crushed. Luckily, the electric net was not ordinary, forcefully blocking the bat's ferocious attacks. Now look at the bat's nest. At that moment, Qin Zhuiyang suddenly discovered that within the bat's nest, there was a blood-red crystal that was glowing continuously. Gang Dalei lifted his head to take a look, saying in shock, "It's a ghost blood crystal. It contains ghost energy and compressed spirit energy. It takes thousands of years to form a crystal. In the past, someone in the Dragon Abyss of the 9 underworlds accidentally obtained a ghost blood crystal the size of a broad bean. He successfully made 10 Dragon Abyss elixirs in one go. The ghost blood crystal in front of us is the size of a fist. If it were used to make Dragon Abyss elixirs, it could make at least 100 of them. It would be enough for all the geniuses in the Jinlong continent to make a breakthrough once. Moreover, according to my master, the ghost blood crystal is an extremely rare item in Jiuzhou. It has unexpected uses, not just for making Dragon Abyss elixirs. So valuable? Its value should not be lower than a true legendary level cultivation technique. Gang Dalei grabbed with his hand. A bolt of lightning flew out, sweeping the entire ghost blood crystal down. I will temporarily keep this item with me, Gang Dalei said, his eyes glowing with excitement. It was obvious that this item was very important to him. Su Yu and Qin Zhuiyang agreed. Creak! Suddenly, the fearless bats that had attacked them screeched and fled. Some of the smaller ghosts in the dark corners also fled in panic. In the blink of an eye, the long tunnel was dead silent. There was not the slightest sound. There was only the sound of the cold, ghost wind blowing through the tunnel. Be careful. Something is approaching. Gang Dalei's expression turned grave, becoming extremely cautious. Suyu was even more cautious. His intuition told him that there was indeed a strange aura drifting in along with the ghost wind. No wonder the three of them did not chase after us. I'm afraid that spell is not so easy to use, Suyu said seriously. Since things have come to this, we can only continue forward. Gang Daily Eye hesitated for a moment, then continued to move.